Chapter 2979. The End, 2. Yes. The young man nodded and said with a serious face, "Please don't call me little guy, okay? I'm not younger than you." Uncle Long was depressed. Then, the young man took the initiative to greet everyone. "Let's get to know each other again." Called Xiao Chow. "Hello, little guys." All the beasts were depressed. They had never thought that Shuer would refine an elder for them. At this moment, Lung Ruoxue stood up and said to the crowd of beasts, "Uncle Long, you guys can continue eating. I'm going to make a breakthrough. If she continued to stay here, she would go crazy. This grass is incurable. It's getting late, we should go back to our rooms." Uncle Long and the others said in unison. With that, the crowd and beasts all disappeared. Little Grass, who was left alone, was completely dumbfounded. What did this mean? He hadn't finished speaking. However, it was obvious that no one was willing to listen to his nonsense. After Lung Ruoxue left, she entered the bangle immediately. The demon entered with her. After sitting in the purple bamboo house, she began to advance. The last level of the heaven-defying art required an unimaginable amount of spiritual qi. Fortunately, she had no lack of spiritual qi at the moment, and now everything was going smoothly. Therefore, she quickly felt the barrier to the next level. She mobilized the spiritual qi in her body and rushed forward with all her strength. The demon watched Lung Ruoxue nervously from the side and observed her movements at all times. A few hours later, Lung Ruoxue was drenched in sweat. It was as if she had fallen into water. Her clothes were all drenched in sweat, and a pained expression gradually appeared on her face. Seeing this, the demon's heart shrank. However, he knew that at this moment he could not panic. After all, Shuer could only rely on herself to advance. Unless Shuer's spiritual energy was insufficient, he could not lend a helping hand. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. Slowly, Lung Ruoxue's pain lessened, and her expression gradually calmed down. After a long time, Lung Ruoxue finally opened her beautiful eyes. Just as she was about to smile at the evildoer, her body went soft and she fell down. "Shuer!" The demon's expression changed when he saw this. He rushed over and hugged Lung Ruoxue. "I'm so tired." The listless Lung Ruoxue only managed to utter these 3 words before she fainted. The demon was scared out of his wits and immediately carried Shuer to the bed. At this moment, Qingju appeared and said, "Elder sister is fine. She's just too tired and fell asleep." Lung Ruoxue had slept for half a month. While she was sleeping, her body was also absorbing the spiritual energy in the bracelet. When she woke up, she no longer felt tired, but there was still no spiritual energy left in her body. She felt that once she advanced, she had gone from a rich man to the poverty line. She was so depressed that she wanted to scratch the wall. Other people were refreshed and energetic after advancing, but why did she feel like she was going to fall with a single touch? This was really bullying. In her current state, she couldn't even take advantage of the law points of heaven and earth if she wanted to advance to Reverend God level. Thanks, the sorrowful Lung Ruoxue looked up at the sky at a 45-degree angle without saying a word. The evildoers who knew about her situation didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He held Shuer in his arms and coaxed her, "Shuer, don't be depressed. There will be spiritual energy. Everything will be there." "That's right. Sister, please help me break the seal first." Qingju also said, "Break the seal? We'll talk about it when I'm better." Lung Ruoxue innocently blinked her beautiful eyes and said calmly. This time, it was Qingju's turn to scratch the wall. Was his sister clearly abusing her power to take revenge on a private matter? "You can't do this." He was still waiting to unseal the seal and start farming. It could be said that he was more concerned about the size of his own land than he was about recovering his full strength. However, the current situation was that Lung Ruoxue was in a bad mood and didn't intend to let him have his wish. Qingju also knew that his sister was in a fit of anger. Hence, it was best for him to be obedient at this time and not touch his sister's head. Otherwise, his sister would definitely go crazy. With this thought in mind, Qingju forced himself to calm down and looked at Lung Ruoxue with hidden bitterness. He wanted to use his gaze to make his sister feel guilty. Unfortunately, even though his idea was good, this wish was very difficult to fulfill. This was because Lung Ruox's skin was already thicker than a city wall. She ignored Qingju's resentful gaze and focused on being a rice weeper, enjoying the service of the beautiful man. Seeing how the evildoer treated Lung Ruoxue like his ancestor every day, Qingju secretly despised him. However, the evildoer did not care. In fact, from his perspective, it was only right for a man to serve his wife. Who would dare to say no? Inside the bangle, Lung Ruoxue was recuperating. At the same time, she was trying her best to absorb spiritual energy in preparation to take advantage of the laws of heaven and earth. Outside the bangle, Lung Ruoxue, who had not appeared for a long time, also caused Uncle Long and the others to be worried. They had no idea what Lung Ruox's current situation was and felt that Shui Er's realm advancement was a little too long. According to past practices, Lung Ruoxue would only be cultivating in the bracelet. As long as she had enough spiritual qi, she would usually come out to advance. However, Shui Er had clearly made all the preparations long ago, so why had she not come out yet? The more time passed, the more worried Uncle Long and the others became. However, Song wasn't worried at all. Every day he would eat and drink as he should, and also play with a certain grass. One had to say that azure was the nemesis of a certain grass. Especially when Uncle Long and the others were annoyed by the grass, as long as they threw the verdant bamboo, the grass would immediately wither. It could be said that Song's life was quite comfortable. Later on, the grass learned its lesson and was determined not to provoke Song. That guy was indeed not someone it could afford to provoke, especially when its master was not around. 3 months later, Lung Ruoxue, who had enough spiritual qi to advance, finally left the bracelet with the demon. The moment Lung Ruoxue appeared, a white figure charged towards her. After sensing that the other party wasn't Song, she was just about to dodge when the figure flew out again. Lung Ruoxue was rather calm as she looked at the little dots of white light. "Shui, you've finally come out." When they saw Lung Ruoxue, Uncle Long and the others heaved a sigh of relief. "Uncle Long, I've made you worry. There was an accident when I was upgrading the heaven-defying art, and I used up all my spiritual qi, so I stayed in there for a while longer." Lung Ruoxue explained with an apologetic look. "It's good that you're fine," Uncle Long said, relieved. "It's fine now. I can take advantage of the laws of heaven and earth now." Lung Ruoxue laughed evilly. In the past, when she broke through, she would think that the benefits she received were a gift from the heavens. However, after she understood the laws of heaven and earth, she no longer thought that way. As the saying goes, it would be a waste not to take advantage of the laws of heaven and earth. More importantly, even if she did not take advantage of it, the laws of heaven and earth might not thank her. Chapter 2980, The End, 3. With such thoughts in mind, Lung Ruoxue naturally felt at ease. After finding an empty spot on the mountain top and sitting down cross-legged, she was surrounded by countless small and exquisite beasts. The demon, Uncle Long, and the others were standing guard outside to keep an eye on them. After waiting for a while, the laws of heaven and earth finally descended. At the same time, when Lung Ruoxue broke through, several laws of the heaven and earth descended. These laws of the heaven and earth landed on Ziyu, Mei, Feng Zhan, Bai Su, and Bao Bao, who were standing beside Lung Ruoxue. Uncle Long and the others were stunned. Those few beasts had also advanced to the level of a revered emperor beast at the same time. Uncle Long suddenly felt a little upset when he saw how easily they advanced. It must be known that he had gone through a lot of hardships to advance to the venerable emperor level. However, these beasts' advancement was obviously much easier than his, especially their treasures, which made him envious and jealous. In his eyes, treasure was not a beast that worked hard. Yet, it had become one of the earliest beasts that Lung Ruoxue had managed to advance to the Venerate Lord rank. How could this not make others jealous? Uncle Long and the others continued to watch. With such a repeated exchange of benefits, be it Lung Ruoxue or the beastie, the benefits they obtained were extremely huge. The crowd could not help but feel envious, jealous, and hateful. There were always beasts breaking through, So the laws of heaven and earth continued for a long time. After nearly half a month, the laws of heaven and earth slowly faded. Lung Ruoxue opened her eyes. "Shuer, your advancement is truly spectacular," Uncle Long couldn't help but say. Even though he was mentally prepared, he was still shocked after seeing it with his own eyes. It was simply too inconceivable. Compared to Shuer's and the other beasties' breakthroughs, Uncle Long and the others felt that their own breakthroughs were too weak. At this moment, the beasts gradually woke up. When they saw Lung Ruoxue beside them, they all snuggled into her arms. At the same time, Baby proudly answered Uncle Long's question, "It's no big deal, we've always been like this." Uncle Long and the others were speechless. This little guy really didn't know what humility was. Especially when they saw Baby's smug expression, they really didn't know what to say. "What are you showing off for? Wasn't it just a rank up? Little guy, do you know how to be humble?" Everyone looked at the baby. The baby replied with his eyes, not understanding. As a beast, he had to be high profile when he needed to be. After exchanging glances, Uncle Long and the others were completely defeated. Because in their eyes, their baby's thick skin had also been trained to a certain level. After communicating with Uncle Long and the rest, Baby turned to Lung Ruoxue and said, "My lovely master, your treasure is also a reverent god now." "Thanks, adorable master, your baby has always been very low-key," Baby said, feeling wronged. "All right, I think we should keep a low profile," Lung Ruoxue said helplessly as she touched the baby's fur. "Nyo's right, he should be like me, not sticking out for anything." At this moment, Song's voice rang in everyone's ears. At that moment, the treasure was terrified and buried its head in Lung Ruoxue's arms. When everyone heard Song's words, they couldn't help but gasp. "Senior Song, don't you stand out in everything?" In their opinion, the most high profile of the beasts was definitely Azure. However, they only dared to think about it in their hearts and didn't dare to say it out loud. Otherwise, Azure would definitely explode with anger. However, even if they didn't say anything from their expressions and reactions, Azure could tell that these people were talking bad about it. It was just that it was in a good mood today, so it didn't bother with these little guys. At the same time, as Tsang took a step towards Lung Ruoxue, the beasts could no longer be bothered to get close to Lung Ruoxue. They immediately scattered and hid far away. Uncle Long and the others were left speechless by this scene. Senior Tsang has trained these little beasts very well. In reality, Baby and the other beasts were depressed to death. However, they were no match for Azure. As such, they could only act like beasts with their tails between their legs. With a faint smile, Tsang gave the beastie a satisfied look before jumping into Lung Ruoxue's arms. He asked curiously, "Girl, your heaven-defying incantation has already reached the Great Circle. Why hasn't that idiot Qingju come out yet? This isn't right?" Based on its understanding of that idiot green vessel, who had recovered its full strength, should have come out to fight it one-on-one long ago. But it had been waiting for a few days, and there was still no sign of the little baby? This was too abnormal. "I still haven't released the last seal on him," Lung Ruoxue said guiltily. Previously, she did not unseal Qingju on purpose. However, she had really forgotten about it after that. No way? Did he not cause a scene? That guy is most concerned about those few pieces of land. Azure's eyes widened in disbelief. "No, I didn't." Lung Ruoxue whispered. At this moment, Qingju's sobbing voice suddenly sounded in her heart. "Sister, it's already been more than 3 months. When are you going to release the last seal for me? Big sister is such a bully." Lung Ruoxue felt a little guilty and hurriedly said, "I'll undo the last seal for you now, so don't cry." "Sister, you can't lie to me," Qingju said cautiously. Lung Ruoxue was speechless. "When have I ever lied to you?" This little wimp actually didn't believe her. Qingju laughed foolishly. He did not dare to anger Lung Ruoxue anymore. "I'll go and unseal Qingju." The helpless Lung Ruoxue greeted the crowd and entered the bracelet. Inside the bangle, Lung Ruoxue arrived at the seal. After casting a few spells, the space within the bangle immediately started to shake. After a short period of shaking, the space expanded by several times and the spirit chi became denser. At the same time, a few more images appeared in Lung Ruox's mind. Those images were the scenes of her master being persecuted by the foggy rippling bitch. When those scenes flashed through Lung Ruox's mind like a movie, she understood everything. In fact, it was just as the demon and Huanchen had said. In the face of fog ice, who could be considered to have been raised by him, Master could not do anything. Chapter 2981. The End. 4. After taking a few deep breaths of fresh air, Lung Ruoxue turned around calmly. When she did not find any traces of Qingju, she guessed that Qingju must have gone to guard his place. When he arrived at the land that had also expanded several times, he saw that Qingju had already begun to cultivate the land diligently. The newly vacated land was scattered with vegetable seeds and medicinal herb seeds. The little black dog who had been Qingju's follower was jumping around excitedly. Seeing these two, Lung Ruox's head was filled with black lines. She could not help but carry green vessel and ask, "Qingju, have you recovered your strength?" "Yes." Qingju nodded and struggled to leave Lung Ruox's embrace. However, Lung Ruoxue hugged him tightly and asked, "What new ability do you have now?" "Copy." Qingju replied straightforwardly and continued to try to get rid of Lung Ruoxue. "Copy? What do you mean by that?" Lung Ruoxue didn't understand, so she naturally didn't plan on letting him off. "What I mean is, I know everything that sister knows. I can also copy what others know." Qingju explained simply and then said, "Sister, let me down, I want to farm." Lung Ruoxue could not help but wipe the cold sweat off her forehead and put green vessel down. Although she still did not fully understand what Qingju was saying, she still chose to leave when she saw that Qingju was obviously not in the mood to talk to her. P&D of 1. Seeing that Lung Ruoxue had come out, Uncle Long asked impatiently, "Shui, what new ability did Green Vessel gain after the seal was broken?" He said copy. Lung Ruoxue replied, "Is this ability useful?" Everyone was quite surprised. "It should be useful, right?" Lung Ruoxue wasn't sure. However, since this was an ability that could only be obtained after breaking the last seal, it shouldn't be useless. Girl, don't worry. This ability of his is very useful." When Tsang heard Lung Ruox's words, he spoke with a face full of hatred. As soon as he said this, everyone's eyes were instantly attracted, and all of them had an expression of seeking answers. "You know," even though Lung Ruoxue knew that it was a wise decision, her face was still filled with hope. "This ability is so annoying," Azure said through gritted teeth. After hearing the word copy, it remembered that the idiot green vessel had such an ability that it hated the most. However, seeing that Nyo did not know much about it, it still explained to her, "This ability can copy everything we have, whether it's our own skills or anything else. It can completely copy everything. Fortunately, he can only copy 80% of what we have. Otherwise, we'd be depressed to death." Thanks, of course, the 80% it mentioned was only in terms of strength, and the rest was not included. Moreover, Tsang didn't explain it too clearly. After all, there were some things that they wouldn't understand even if they were explained. "You mean, let him help me break the formation?" Lung Ruoxue asked with uncertainty. "Yes." He was born from the primordial chaos. Although he is very weak, he is still an innate chaotic divine artifact and the heart of the divine realm. Thus, with his help, the rhyme bitch's formation will be nothing. However, the formation has to be broken in 3 places at the same time, so we're still missing one person. As Tsang spoke, he suddenly became worried. "Can't Shui Mo do it?" "What is the heart of the divine realm?" Lung Ruoxue, Uncle Long, and the rest asked in unison. "Shui Mo's strength is still lacking. I'm afraid he won't have enough spiritual chi." Azure thought for a moment before explaining, "It's the heart of the divine realm. Without him, the operation of the divine realm will become a problem. Of course, I'm referring to the situation where that idiot Qingju is dead. Generally speaking, as long as he's not dead, there won't be any problems with the divine realm. If there's no problem with the divine realm, then there naturally won't be any problems with all the spaces. Oh! Everyone understood. Shui Mo, who was sitting in the corner, burst into tears when he heard Song say that his strength was still lacking. He was a reverent god. Don't be so harsh, okay? However, he didn't dare to refute Azure's words. So, since the other party said that his strength was weak, then so be it. In any case, compared to Azure, his strength was indeed very weak. Thinking about this, Shui Mo was furious. Your sister. Who are you calling weak? Who's the idiot? At this time, an angry voice rang in everyone's ears, and then a little doll appeared out of thin air. When Shui Mo heard this voice, he felt very kind. Although he knew that this child was not speaking up for him, he felt that he had a little partner now. Stupid cat, you dare to speak ill of me while I'm not here. Do you think I'm dead? Qing Ju jumped in front of Tsang and waved his little fist. They'll just take it that you're dead, what do you think? Your reflex arc is pretty long, I've already said it for a while before you jumped out. Tsang said with a look of disdain, his eyes seemed to say, you're just a noob. It took so long for him to jump out. If you're not a noob, then who is? Your sister. I'm farming. I don't have time to deal with you. Qing Ju shouted. When she heard Qing Ju confidently say that he was farming, Leng Ruoxue felt as if lightning was striking her. Qing Ju, I'm a high-end artifact spirit, can you not always talk about farming? No matter how she heard it, she still felt uncomfortable. Uncle Long and the others were also in a mess. Originally, it was already lively enough with Tsang going against the mistress of the dark world. Now, there was another green vessel. This was the rhythm of the world falling into chaos. Their days in the future would probably be in deep waters and suffering. It had to be said that Uncle Long and the others had found out the truth. After Green Vessel had recovered its full strength and could leave the bracelet, the outside world had indeed been lively for a while. Green Vessel, who had not had the chance to leave the bracelet for a long time, had also fully carried out the spirit of exploration and studied the divine world thoroughly. However, while he was happy, many people in the immortal realm were not. At this moment, although Uncle Long and the rest had expected this, they did not expect Green Vessel to be so destructive. After all, in everyone's eyes, Green Vessel was still a little kid. Since you're farming, why did you come out now? Azure smiled and continued to provoke him. I'm happy, it's none of your business. Qing Ju glared at Song viciously before he transformed into an obedient little doll and threw himself into Leng Ruoxue's arms. He suggested, Sister, count me in to solve the formation. As for the other candidate, let this damn cat do it. Your sister. I don't know how to dispel the formation. Exploding-haired Song roared. It's all right, you can get this little Qilin to help you. Azure pointed at Shui Mo, who was pretending to be transparent. Hearing Qing Ju call him little Qilin, Shui Mo was filled with grief and indignation again. They were all bullying him. After all, he was an ancestor of the Qilin race. In the mouth of a cat and a little baby, he was just a little guy. How could he live? Chapter 2982, The End, 5. How do I break the feeling of knocking my head against the wall? Moreover, while he was depressed, he also received many sympathetic gazes, which made him quite speechless. He didn't need anyone's sympathy. He really didn't need it. Azure, I'll leave it to you. After hearing Qing Ju's suggestion, Leng Ruoxue was afraid that Song would object, so she quickly added, Girl, don't blame me if something happens. Azure said with a cautious expression. I don't blame you. Leng Ruoxue wiped away her sweat and thought, with Shui Mo watching, nothing big will happen. However, when the others heard his words, they were so frightened that their faces changed. These words, why did they sound so uncertain? Qing Ju, you're out? At this moment, an excited voice rang out. Then, a little Qilin ran over excitedly. Bing Yao, why are you still a small ball? Qing Ju looked at Bing Yi and asked in confusion. You haven't grown up either. Bing Yao said weakly. In the spirit of the artifact. Qing Ju was a little embarrassed. Could he say that his sister would not hug him anymore when he grew up? Could he say it? That was why he didn't want to grow up. He wanted to be like this forever. Beastie, Bing Yao said dumbly. Qing Ju was silent. He did not mean it that way. Bing Yao, I'll show you someone, Qing Ju said after sighing. What? Bing Yao blinked and looked at Qing Ju in confusion. Master, I've missed you so much. As soon as Bing Yao saw the young man, she immediately pounced toward him. Bing Yao, I also missed you. Wu hugged Bing Yao's small body tightly and said softly. Wu, you finally recovered. Lung Ruoxue felt at ease when she saw Wu's condition. A few years ago, she had already refined a pill for Wu that could help him. After that, Wu had been in seclusion. Now that he had come out of seclusion, he was naturally happy for him. Sure, thank you. Wu Yi said gratefully. Don't mention it, we're all family. Lung Ruoxue laughed. Right? We're on the same side. Wu Happy said. Detestable. Let go of my son. Suddenly, an angry voice rang out again, giving everyone a big fright. Without looking back, everyone knew that it was Ice Spirit. As expected, Bing Pa quickly rushed over and grabbed the Ice Phoenix from Wu's arms. He held it tightly in his arms, as if he was afraid that Wu would snatch his son away from him. When Wu saw this, she was dumbfounded and looked at Lung Ruoxue in confusion. What was going on? Did something happen when he wasn't around? Why was there someone snatching the beastie from him the moment he came out? Wait a minute. Did this man just say to let go of his son? The son was Bing Yao? Seeing Wu's bewilderment, Lung Ruoxue smiled and introduced him to them. Don't fight. One of you is the Ice Phoenix's father, and the other is its master. You're all on the same side. Thanks. When everyone heard this, they were so scared that their little hearts trembled. Although most people didn't know Wu, even Master Ning and the great elder who knew him had a bad feeling about Wu's words. This was definitely the rhythm of drawing hatred. Sure enough, Ice Soul's face darkened and he suddenly shouted, Why doesn't Bing Yao have a father? Don't tell me you didn't jump out of a rock? I didn't mean it that way. I thought that Bing Yi was an orphan. Knowing that he had said the wrong thing, Wu hurriedly explained. At the same time, he felt depressed. Could it be that after being in seclusion for a long time, his IQ had dropped sharply? Otherwise, how could he say such low IQ words? It was a sad and unkind place. After hearing Wu's explanation, Bing Pio's anger dissipated. After all, it was not wrong for her to think so. More importantly, Bing Yao's master was his son's savior, so he was only grateful. Ice Spirit thought for a while and said, Little guy, my son and I will follow you from now on. Take in the small and give the big? Unblinking blinked in disbelief. Since it was Bing Yao's father, it must be an adult Qilin. Did he earn big? This was definitely a pie in the sky. Of course, Wu wouldn't be stupid enough to reject such a good deal. However, he was so shocked that he didn't manage to react for a moment. Kid quickly agree. Senior Ice Soul is the forefather of the Qilin clan. You'll have someone to back you up in the future. Seeing that nothing was still in a daze, Master Ning urged anxiously. Senior Ice Spirit, please take care of me. After Master Ning's reminder, he immediately said, Don't worry. I'll take care of you for the sake of my son. Ice Spirit nodded. Ice Spirit had heard a lot about this kid from his son, so he had a good impression of him. Therefore, he was not worried about his son following him. Of course, he had to follow his son as well. After all, his son was still weak, and his master was not that strong. Little fellow, isn't it time for you to advance? Ice Spirit reminded Wuji when she felt Wuji was full of spiritual qi. Arg, almost forgot. Shuer, where's the most suitable place to advance? Wu Hui looked at Lung Ruofa and asked nervously. I'll bring you there. Lung Ruoxue said helplessly when she saw how nervous Wu was. He brought Wu to the place where she had broken through previously. Lung Ruoxue and the others stood at the side and watched. After that, the laws of heaven and earth descended. Why does this kid look so silly? Ice Spirit couldn't help but ask as she looked at Wu, who was breaking through. He's just too nervous. After all, it's his first time meeting the parents. Lung Ruoxue laughed evilly. I'm not a ferocious beast. Ice Spirit said unhappily. When they heard this, Lung Ruoxue and the others looked deeply at Bingpe. They all thought in unison, "Senior, are you even scarier than a flood or a ferocious beast?" Unfortunately, the person involved didn't think so at all. After a long time, he finally completed his rank up and continued to advance several levels, directly advancing to the Divine Emperor realm. Looking at his strength, Ice Spirit felt that it was not satisfactory, but he was satisfied with it. After all, it wasn't easy to advance to Reverend God level. As Ice Spirit continued to judge Wu with her fastidious eyes, Wu gradually calmed down. After a while, Lung Ruoxue specially held a small celebration party for Wu and formally introduced him to the crowd. The next day, Wu Xiang bade farewell to Lung Ruoxue and planned to take a walk around the divine world. If Wu had such thoughts, Lung Ruoxue would not stop her. She knew that for her son, Ice Spirit would follow her. With Ice Spirit as her backing, no matter where Wu went, there would be no problem. If anything were to happen, it would be someone else who would be in trouble. After sending off a few people, Lung Ruoxue decided to head to the city of abandoned ruins again. Previously, due to her insufficient strength, she was unable to break the seals on the White Tiger, Dragon, and Phoenix race. This time around, she must definitely rescue the Beastmen from these three races. Chapter 2983, The End, 6. The moment they heard that Lung Ruoxue was going to save the Beastmen of the three tribes, Feng Zhan and the rest were instantly excited. Even the mother parasol tree, who had not appeared for a long time, looked at Lung Ruoxue affectionately, like a little girl who had just experienced love. Lung Ruoxue was so frightened by the mother parasol tree's fervent gaze that her heart trembled. After preparing the materials that she would need, she left Demon City with the demon, Uncle Dragon, and the rest. Lu Fan was overjoyed when he arrived at the city of abandoned ruins. He was especially friendly when he saw everyone. After finding out that Lung Ruoxue and the rest had specially come to dispel the array, he immediately brought them to the location of the seal. Lung Ruoxue and Qing Ju were each in charge of a formation, while Tseng and Shui Mo were in charge of another. When Lu Fan saw the configuration, he was so shocked that his jaw almost fell off. He could understand why Lung Ruoxue and his master had occupied one area each, but how could a little kid occupy one of the sealed areas? Could it be that this little kid also knew how to dispel the formation? Oh my God! When did the little kids of the divine realm become so powerful? Seeing that Lu Fan was looking at him with surprise, and amazement, Qing Ju was a little angry. What are you looking at? I don't see any children? It was really worrying. He didn't want to be surrounded by people like a rare animal. Lu Fan looked away and said carefully, "It's not that I haven't seen it before, but I've never seen someone as young as you take on such a great responsibility. I've lived for hundreds of billions of years, how am I small?" Qing Ju said angrily. Lu Fan was roaring in his heart. Did the divine world have hundreds of billions of years? It didn't seem like it. However, the people around Lung Ruoxue were not simple people, so Lu Fan was smart enough not to say these words. However, how could Qing Ju not understand what he was thinking? He said with a look of disdain, "Little guy, I'll tell you the truth. There's already this grandpa before the divine realm." One could imagine how crazy Lu Fan was to be called a little guy by a little boy. "Forget it, I won't argue with a little kid, or else I'll be laughed at." Lu Fan consoled himself. P&D of one. This time, Lu Fan was completely horrified. He knew that Lung Ruoxue would not have an ordinary child by her side. Look, this little fellow actually knew what he was thinking? Did he want to die? Lu Fan was worried. No one would believe that a divine lord was frightened by a baby. Thanks Uncle Long, who had witnessed this scene, patted Lu Fan's shoulder sympathetically and comforted him. "Lu Fan, calm down, Qing Ju is not a child in the ordinary sense." Now, Lu Fan was suddenly glad that he had surrendered. If not, when Lung Ruoxue and Wu Jing fought, they would only become cannon fodder. This time, he was surprised to find that Lung Ruoxue's strength had become even more unfathomable. Or rather, it could be said that Lung Ruoxue's strength had returned to its original state and was undetectable by others. In addition, there was an irresistible affinity with her that made people involuntarily want to get close to her. However, the other party was his master's master, so he was afraid to get close to her. While Lu Fan was thinking to himself, Green Vessel had already received Lung Ruox's message. The three of them started to break the formation at the same time and kept in contact. This God-binding great array had to be carried out simultaneously, especially when they reached the eye of the array. They had to pay more attention to the time progress between the three arrays. If there was a slight mistake, not only would all their previous efforts be in vain, but it would also alarm the fog ice. Even if the fog was alarmed, she would not be able to break in for a while with the defense formation outside the city of abandoned ruins. However, her appearance would always make people feel uncomfortable, so it was better for her not to appear. Be it Green Vessel or Tsang, they were connected to Lung Ruox's mind. Hence, it was much more convenient for the three of them to work together to break the formation. With Green Vessel's ability to copy, Green Vessel was basically at the same time as Lung Ruoxue. However, nothing major happened to Tsang, but small accidents happened frequently. Shueimo, who was guiding by the side, was so scared that he broke out in cold sweat and almost fainted a few times. Azure was very calm, comforting Shueimo not to be afraid and telling him how to solve the formation after thinking it through. Shueimo wanted to bang his head against the wall again. How could he not be afraid? Tsang almost placed the Jingshi in the wrong place several times, scaring him so much that his heart almost stopped. But Tsang was as if nothing had happened, extremely indifferent. Tsang had even told him that it was fine and that he could just undo it again. Dear, almost 1/6 of the solution had been removed. It would only be a waste of manpower, material resources, and financial resources to start all over again. After his research, he found out that this God-binding array was definitely an array that could burn crystal stones. This was because a God-binding array required a large amount of top-grade crystal stones, whether it was to set up an array or to break it. When the fog ripple formation was first set up, it used seemingly gentle water attribute top-grade crystals. If they were to break the formation, they would need earth attribute top-grade crystals to achieve the effect of mutual promotion and restraint. The number of top-grade earth attribute crystals they had was limited. It could be said that if they were to start all over again, they would not have enough crystals. Therefore, Shueimo's heart was in his throat with every step. Especially when he saw Tsang's nonchalant look, Shueimo was really annoyed. Unfortunately, he was not strong enough. Otherwise, he wouldn't be willing to see Tsang scare him here. At this moment, he deeply understood the true meaning of the saying it's better to rely on yourself than on others. Shueimo was nervous and Azure had no choice but to get serious. In fact, he really didn't think there was a need to be so nervous. Wasn't it just solving an array? So what if he failed? It did not have the thought of saving the Dragon Clan, White Tiger Clan, and Phoenix Clan. It could be said that in the entire firmament, other than Lung Ruoxue, there were not many things that could make it care. However, for Lung Ruox's sake, it felt that it was better to be serious. Otherwise, Nyo would be angry. With the thought of making Nyo happy, Tsang suddenly became more careful. Seeing this, Shueimo was quite pleased. Tsang's interest was piqued when he saw that 2 of the 6-pointed stars' corners had dimmed. According to Shueimo's explanation, the 6-pointed star had 6 corners. They had to destroy the 6 corners first before they could destroy the eye of the formation together. Only then could they truly dispel the God-binding formation. The eye of the God-binding formation was still flashing red, which meant that the formation was still operating normally. After an unknown period of time, the 4 corners of the hexagram had been removed. However, as each corner of the array dimmed, the time required to remove each corner grew longer. By the time they removed the 5th corner, it had taken them about 5 days. At this moment, Lung Ruoxue, Qingju, and Tsang, who were responsible for removing the array, were already feeling a little tired. Under normal circumstances, the difficulty of breaking through was at least 3 times that of setting up a formation. However, the God-binding formation that Wu Xian had set up was a top-notch formation. It was also a combination of 3 formations. Hence, the difficulty was 9 times higher. Even though Lung Ruoxue had already perfected her heaven-defying art, she still felt a strain on her. Green Vessel and Azure were the same. Chapter 2984. The End, 7. After resting for a while and taking a few healing pills, the three of them continued to dismantle the formation. After removing the last horn, the formation eye in the center of the formation seemed to have realized something and started to flicker. Lung Ruoxue felt that something was amiss and immediately turned to the demon. Demon, you go to the city lord's mansion and take charge. All right. The demon nodded and left Lung Ruoxue's side reluctantly. At the same time, Wu Xiao, who was cultivating in the secret chamber of the Divine Lord's palace in Imperial City, suddenly opened her beautiful eyes. Then her eyes turned cold and she disappeared from the secret chamber. By the time she arrived at the city of abandoned ruins, Lung Ruoxue and the other two had already broken through the last corner of the six-pointed star god-binding array. Meanwhile, the eye of the array in the center of the array suddenly became violent. The formation's eye was set up by Wu Lian with her heart's blood and was naturally connected to her mind. Thus, she was aware of the situation within the formation. What she didn't expect was that Lung Ruoxue would be able to break the god-binding formation to such an extent in such a short period of time. This caused her to be secretly shocked, but more than that, she was going crazy. However, as she stood outside the city gate of the city of abandoned ruins, her beautiful eyes glared at the defense formation in the sky. She felt a headache. The pain of the formation's backlash was still fresh in her mind, so she did not dare to act rashly. At this time, in addition to the evildoers in the city lord's mansion, Uncle Long and the others had also rushed back to the city lord's mansion. They couldn't help but feel a little worried when they saw Wu Xian's frantic appearance through the light screen. If the other party wanted to force his way in, he didn't know if the formation could defend against it. However, they stared nervously at the light screen for a long time, but didn't see any movement from Wu Xian. This made Uncle Long and the others deeply suspicious. Why isn't she doing anything? What are you waiting for? Lu Fan asked in surprise. He didn't think that Wu Han would have a more powerful helper, but the other party just stood outside without moving, which was enough to make him upset. She's considering the pros and cons. The demon said, if I were her, I wouldn't care about the matters here anymore. After all, even if the Phoenix, Dragon and White Tiger race were to be rescued, they wouldn't be a threat to her at all. Her only enemy is Shui. The demon added. Everyone nodded and hoped so. After all, they were not ready to make a move yet. In reality, Wu Xian's thoughts were similar to the demoness. She was very clear that since Lung Ruoxue had already broken through most of the god-binding great array, no matter how she tried to salvage it, it would be useless. Besides, she would have to pay a painful price if she wanted to enter the city of forsaken ruins to stop Lung Ruoxue's actions. Now, she was not sure of Lung Ruoxue's strength, so she did not dare to act rashly. But if she didn't go in, what would happen to her clone? When she thought about how her clone had most likely fallen into Lung Ruoxue's hands, she immediately went crazy. Through the light screen, the demon and the others saw that Wu Xiao was calm and composed for a moment and then stomped her feet in anger the next moment. They immediately concluded that this woman was crazy. Of course, Wu Jing wasn't really crazy, but she was also quite angry. However, she knew that her clone was still alive. It was just that her strength had not fully recovered. Otherwise, she could have directly summoned her clone back. However, she had no choice at this moment because she had tried before, but it was a pity that someone had blocked her. Thanks without even guessing, Fog could imagine that the one who did this was either Lung Ruoxue or Tsang. Of course, Azure's face was bigger. Uncle Long and the others didn't dare to let their guard down when they saw Wu Xian leaving. The main reason was that none of them had expected Wu Xian to give up attacking the city so easily. This was not like her. It's fine now. I'm going to find Shui. The demon was calmer than any of them. After saying that, he went to the place where Lung Ruoxue was breaking the array to accompany her. As they silently watched Lung Ruoxue fight to the death with the array core, the surrounding evildoers and beasts did not even dare to breathe loudly, afraid that they would disturb her. On the other side, other than Green Vessel who was still rather relaxed, Tsang was already in a mess. Seeing Tsang like this, Shueimo didn't dare to say anything. He could only remind her from time to time. This was the most critical moment. He didn't dare to disturb Tsang Ho when he taught her how to break the formation core, but his heart was in his throat. This was even more exciting than breaking the formation himself. After fighting with the formation eye for a long time and feeling that it was about time, Tsang did not make any more big movements and focused on waiting for Lung Ruox's orders. At the same time, he kept stuffing spiritual energy recovery pills into his mouth. At the same time, Green Vessel was also waiting for Lung Ruox's orders. Compared to these two old men who had lived for so many years, Lung Ruox's foundation was too shallow. She had just completed the great circle of the heaven-defying art, and the spiritual energy in her body had not fully recovered. After using up a lot of it to break the array, she felt that her spiritual energy was running out. After taking a few spiritual energy recovery pills, the spiritual energy in Lung Ruox's body increased by a little. Feeling depressed, she ate a few more bottles without hesitation. Lu Fan was so scared that his face turned pale. Were they eating medicinal pills? After living for so long, this was the first time he had seen someone eat medicinal pills in such a way. However, Lung Ruoxue completely ignored the surprised gazes in front of her. After swallowing a few bottles of elixirs, she did some calculations and felt that the spiritual qi should be enough to break the array eye. He sent a signal to Green Vessel and Azure, and the three of them attacked the blood-red formation core together. The formation's eye had already realized that it didn't have long to live, so it carried out a tenacious resistance. Under the array's resistance, it had indeed created quite a bit of trouble for Lung Ruoxue and the other two. Fortunately, the three of them were people with strong willpower and belonged to the type of people who would become more courageous the more they were defeated. Hence, the array's stubborn resistance had instead aroused their fighting spirit. In the end, in this battle of courage and determination, the array's eye was finally defeated. The three of them were listless like frosted eggplants. When the demon saw Lung Ruoxu's state, he immediately hugged her in his arms with heartache. Uncle Long also carried Green Vessel, but no one dared to touch Green. Lying on the cold ground, Tsang felt extremely miserable. Come and hug it. It had no strength left. Even in his dreams, Tsang had never thought that breaking the formation could make him so tired. This really made him sad. What made him even sadder was that the people around him were only looking at him with a pair of innocent eyes, but no one cared about him. Thinking of his pitiful situation, Tsang burst into tears. At this moment, the original formation suddenly collapsed. Everyone was instantly shocked and silently gasped. Senior Tsang was getting more and more powerful. He could make the ground collapse just by crying. Chapter 2985. The End, 8. In fact, their thoughts made Azure feel very wronged. This had nothing to do with him, okay? It was obvious that after the array was broken, the secret chamber that was suppressed by the array could no longer be suppressed. So, don't blame it for every bad thing, okay? While Azure was feeling depressed, a few white tigers burrowed out from the ground. The white tigers' originally snow-white fur had turned black and gray, and some places were even bald. Their bodies were very weak, and they were trembling as they walked. However, when they felt the pressure on their heads disappear, they did not dare to delay and ran out. Seeing Shueimo and the others, a dirty white tiger asked, "It was you guys who saved our white tiger clan? You're the white tiger king?" Shueimo's eyes widened as he looked at the white tiger in disbelief. In his memory, the white tiger king was the most narcissistic and vain one. Now that it had become like this, could it take it? However, Shueimo was overthinking. Just as the high priest of the Phoenix tribe had said, they would leave this place sooner or later. Therefore, their primary goal was to stay alive. Although it had never liked to listen to that fraud's words, it could not deny that what that fraud said was right. Today, their white tiger clan finally saw the light of day again. Although it was still dark outside the underground secret room, the air was fresh. How long had it been since they had breathed in fresh air? After taking a few deep breaths of fresh air, the white tiger king said with a look of admiration, I can't believe that there are still people who recognize me after being locked up for so long. Hearing this, Shui Mo really wanted to say that he didn't know him. But now, it was obvious that this old white tiger didn't recognize him. Shui Mo. Shui Mo introduced himself with a sigh. Arg. You're little Shui Mo? Hee hee, I won't be able to recognize you even if you turn into a human. The white tiger king laughed pervertedly. Shui Mo's forehead was covered in sweat. He didn't know this guy, definitely not. Shui Mo felt so embarrassed. Why would he run to the place where the white tiger race was locked up in a fit of hot-headedness? He must have opened his eyes in the wrong way today, otherwise he wouldn't have made such a choice. Shui Mo was filled with regret. However, the white tiger king didn't seem to notice Shui Mo's conflicted thoughts. Instead, it took a step forward and stretched out its huge claw, wanting to touch Shui Mo and take a good look at him. However, just as its claws were about to touch Shui Mo, a deafening shriek was heard, "Arg! My tail!" Then, Shui Mo saw a flash of white light and it pounced on the white tiger patriarch. In the blink of an eye, all the fur on the white tiger king's body was plucked out. There were also countless claw marks on its body, and blood was flowing out. On the other hand, the white tiger king was howling in pain. However, it was currently being suppressed by the azure and could not move at all. Although the two beasts were a little weak, the azure bloodline's level was above the white tiger king's. Thus, with a single wave of its pressure, the white tiger king could only let the other party bully it and did not dare to act rashly. Thanks, the other white tigers saw that their king was being attacked and were about to step forward, but they saw Tsong raise a small paw and gently blow at the gray fur that was still stuck between the claws. He glanced at them again, and the white tigers instantly didn't dare to move. One must know that although the white tiger clan had been suppressed for a long time and their strength had been greatly reduced, the pressure was still there. But now they were completely suppressed by a cat. Even if it was a white tiger with a strong will, it would not be able to withstand such a serious blow, right? This really hurt the white tiger clan's pride too much. The few white tigers present were all figures of the white tiger race's ancestors. Now that they had been suppressed in a single move, it was simply an unprecedented scene. Furthermore, it didn't seem like they had done anything. How did the king get attacked? That's right, the king stepped on this kitten's tail. Senior, can you please let King go? It didn't do it on purpose. A rather tactful white tiger pleaded and winked at Shui Mo. It was obvious that Shui Mo recognized this cat, but Shui Mo replied with a helpless expression. After offending Senior Tsong, other than Lung Ruoxue, no one else would be able to ask for this favor. He was starting to pity the white tiger king. I just wanted to touch him, but I accidentally stepped on Senior Tsong's tail. So he really didn't know what to say. It could only be said that the white tiger king was really unlucky. When Azure heard the other white tiger's plea, he only snorted coldly and arrogantly used the white tiger on top of him as a meat cushion, lying on top of it with ease. Seeing this, the white tigers could only look at their king with pity and depression. The white tiger king wanted to cry. It couldn't understand why this was happening. At the same time, Lung Ruoxue's side was bustling with activity, earning many people's tears. Her place happened to be the place where the Phoenix clan was imprisoned, and the majority of her beasts were phoenixes. Therefore, after breaking the seal and rescuing all the phoenixes who had been suppressed, the phoenixes hugged each other and held their heads in pain. When they had cried enough, they suddenly remembered that they had not thanked their savior yet. The entire Feng clan, led by Feng Wu, felt extremely ashamed. They quickly went to Lung Ruoxue and knelt down in unison. Thank you, Master, for saving my life. We were a little slow just now, please forgive us. It's okay, I understand. Why would Lung Ruoxue pick a fight with them? She was still weak. Looking at the phoenix that was speaking, Lung Ruoxue guessed that it should be the Phoenix King. This Phoenix King was indeed much stronger than the one in the immortal realm. At least, they were not on the same level in terms of temperament. However, after being suppressed for so long, this Phoenix King's strength was already so low that it was unbearable to look at. Just as Lung Ruoxue was thinking about how to quickly restore these phoenixes' powers, she felt the rules of the contract descend. The phoenixes that were rescued had taken the initiative to recognize their master. Lung Ruoxue did not expect them to be so forthright, but she immediately felt at ease. The mother parasol tree often contacted the Phoenix King, so it was only natural that she knew about her situation. As for Green Vessel's side, as compared to the bustling scene at Lung Ruoxue's side, Song's side was speechless, and his side was relatively quiet. After the dragon clan was rescued, they were at a loss for how to react when they saw that the one who saved them was actually a little baby. Moreover, the dragon clan had some cold-blooded characteristics. Therefore, all the humans and beasts present were silent and looked at each other with big eyes. Qingju didn't like to speak either. He just lay in Uncle Long's arms and closed his eyes without saying a word. Chapter 2986, The End, 9. He was too tired. While they were acknowledging their relatives and glaring at each other, Wu Xian, who was far away in the secret chamber of the God Lord's estate, spat out another mouthful of blood. He was once again devoured by the array. She knew that Lung Ruoxue and the rest had already released the God-binding array and rescued the dragon, phoenix, and white tiger race. Although she hated it, but she was powerless to stop it now. He didn't care about the three clans. At this moment, she could clearly sense a sense of danger. She felt that if she did not recover her powers as soon as possible, she would not be able to gain an advantage in the confrontation with Lung Ruoxue. This was something she absolutely could not tolerate. Wu Xian smashed the few decorations in the secret room into pieces in a frenzy. Then, she spat out a few more mouthfuls of blood before she calmed down. After calming down for a long time, she decided to continue healing. "Men, bring my food in," Wu Xian loudly ordered. In less than a minute, a few men in black escorted dozens of men and women into the secret room. Looking at the food brought in, Wu Yen was not very satisfied. In fact, what she wanted to eat the most was the strong, but the strong were extremely precious, so she could not bear to eat them. Therefore, she could only eat these humans who did not taste very good. He extended a vine and wrapped it around one of the men, then stabbed the sharp thorn into the man's body. In an instant, the man's originally plump body shriveled up. This scene frightened the other men and women who were brought in, and the less courageous ones even fainted. "A bunch of useless trash. It's your honor to be my food." Ripple's beautiful eyes swept across the area, looking at the ants present. Who are you?" The one who spoke was actually a woman. Although her expression was also very ugly, she still mustered up the courage to ask. "I am God Lord Fog Ripple." Ripple laughed as she replied. "No. This was impossible. Lady Wu Xian is the Lord of the Divine Realm. How could she be so vicious?" The woman's face was filled with disbelief. "The Lord of the Divine Realm? That's right. If it was any other time, I wouldn't have laid my hands on the two of you. If you want to blame someone, then blame Lung Ruoxue, who asked her to cause me to be injured and even pose a great threat to me. If I don't eat you, how can I recover my strength?" Wu Xian said as if it was a matter of course. The woman had heard of Lung Ruoxue's name before, but she did not agree with Wu Xian's words. She did not expect that a divine master would be so shameless. This was truly too shocking. And it was so disappointing. After hearing Wu Xiao's words, the woman immediately closed her mouth and no longer spoke. She deeply felt that there was no reason to reason with a lunatic. Seeing that the other party didn't speak and even showed her a disdainful look, Fog Ripple couldn't help but burn with anger. Next, she stretched out the vine towards the woman, who closed her eyes and waited silently. Who knew that Fog Ripple would suddenly change direction and target the person next to the woman. "Since you're not afraid of death, I'll let you die last." Wu Xian laughed wildly. When the woman heard this, she wanted to call her a lunatic, but she gave up after thinking about it. She deeply felt that if she really scolded him, she was afraid that it would only make this lunatic, Wu Yen, more and more proud. However, as the number of strangers around her slowly decreased, no matter how strong the woman's will was, she finally couldn't take it and collapsed. "Quickly eat me! Quickly eat me!" A Tao that a woman couldn't stand. This was really too torturous. She really regretted it. Why did she have to provoke this lunatic? As you wish. Wu Xian laughed complacently and extended the rattan towards the woman. Then she ordered her subordinates, there are too few people. They're not even enough to fill the gaps between my teeth. Continue to arrest people for me. Thanks, yes. The subordinate of the man in black immediately responded and turned to leave. When he arrived at Qingju's place, he saw Qingju and the rest staring at the old dragons. The atmosphere was rather strange. What's the situation? Leng Ruoxue asked directly. Sister, these old dragons don't believe that I saved them, so they're competing with me to see whose eyes are bigger. However, I don't have the energy to compete with them. I'm so tired and I want to sleep. Qingju complained. Yes, I want to sleep too. Leng Ruoxue gently touched Qingju's head. Old Phoenix, you guys are out too? Suddenly, Leng Ruoxue and the others heard a surprised voice. Then they saw Feng Wu's roar, your sister. Who are you calling Old Phoenix? I'm much younger than you stinky dragon. Hearing this, Leng Ruoxue and the others, who had always thought that Feng Wu was an elegant and noble man, were all dumbfounded. This was Feng Wu? Image. Pay attention to your image. Don't be like a shrew, okay? The dragon reminded. You're the shrew, your whole family are shrews. Feng Wu hadn't even reacted to the dragon's words when Feng Zhan gave up. Who are you? You dare to scold me? A certain dragon's face was filled with disbelief, as if he had heard something he shouldn't have said. Feng Wu, on the other hand, smiled in satisfaction and said, Old dragon, this is my son. After saying this, she turned around and touched the feathers on Feng Zhan's body. She praised, Good son, well scolded. Son. The dragon stammered. As far as he knew, his rival only had 5 daughters and 1 son. Didn't he die? Seeing through the dragon's thoughts, the Phoenix King rolled her eyes at him and said, How can my bloodline die so easily? Haven't you heard of the nirvana of the phoenix? Of course, Feng Zhan wasn't a phoenix that had gone through nirvana. Although it was still an egg at that time, and it was extremely dangerous to be exiled, she believed that no matter how difficult the environment was, her son would definitely be able to survive. As it turned out, its son did not disappoint it. Not only did he successfully find a master, but he had also advanced to the venerate emperor level. Its son had already become its greatest pride. When the dragon heard this, he had to admit that the Phoenix tribe was indeed more fortunate than the dragon tribe. After watching them bicker for a while, Leng Ruoxue then led the rest of the group to look for Tsong. Putting aside how miserable the White Tiger clan was, just looking at how they were currently being oppressed by Azure, it was definitely enough to kill the other 2 clans in seconds. Old White Cat, you're being bullied by a little cat. Tiske, what a tragedy. A certain dragon saw a small white cat lying on the White Tiger King's body, forming a sharp contrast with the White Tiger King's dirty appearance, and couldn't help but laugh and make fun of it. Old Earthworm, you're still alive? The White Tiger King's eyelids twitched as he spoke. At this moment, it was already quite calm because it was indeed no match for this cat. At the same time, he also sighed. He hadn't appeared in the immortal realm for too long. It was really like a tiger falling into the sun and being bullied by a cat. Chapter 2987. The End, 10. Of course I'm still alive. I'm sorry to disappoint you. A certain dragon said with a smile. Then he walked in front of Azure and praised, Little kitty, you did well. You deserve praise. Hearing this, Azure raised his head and glanced at the dragon, then spat out a word. Get lost. The dragon was dumbfounded. It was being told to get lost by a cat? This really hurt the dragon's pride. Shuin couldn't help but chuckle at the sight of the stunned dragon. Human, what are you laughing at? The dragon said rudely. Blind dragon, you're the human. Shui Mo's face darkened. So it's not a human. The dragon was not too stupid and quickly reacted. However, why did Shui Mo feel so awkward when he heard the other party say that he was not human? Shui Mo shut his mouth. He's really blind, he can't even tell it's a Qilin. Song Yun smiled. Qilin? I've never heard of any Qilin being caught by that old woman, Wu Cheng. the dragon said in surprise. In fact, it couldn't be blamed for its poor eyesight. Normally, unless it was a familiar companion, it was really difficult for them to see through the identity of other beasts in human form. Shueimo was obviously stronger than the dragon, so it was not hard to understand that the dragon did not expect Shueimo to be a beast. However, at this moment, Azure didn't like this stupid dragon, so he wanted to find trouble with it. Now that he heard its words, Azure directly said, "Do you think the Qilin clan is as stupid as you three clans?" Not only was he tricked by the ripple of fog, but he was also captured. And now you've caused us to waste our divine power to save you. In the future, even if you sell your three clans to us, it won't be enough to compensate for our losses. Song's tone was not good at all, and he had offended the three races. However, the White Tiger King had been bullied by Tsong ever since he was freed. Therefore, he didn't dare to refute Song's bold words. Feng Wu only felt a little embarrassed, but he also felt that Song was right. They were indeed stupid. In addition, it had also guessed that this little white cat must have a deep relationship with its owner, so it was also very observant. Only a certain dragon was immediately angered by Azure's words and pointed at Azure Fire, shouting, "I don't even know when the cat race became so bold. Since you're not afraid of me, then do you dare to fight me one-on-one?" Hearing that a certain dragon was going to fight it one-on-one, Leng Ruoxue and the rest mourned for it for 3 seconds out of sympathy. This was definitely the rhythm of seeking death. "You want to fight me one-on-one? Acknowledging my girl as your master?" Song Qing lifted his eyelids and asked calmly. "I haven tea." The dragon replied in a daze. It had only just seen Leng Ruoxue and was brought here. It had not even thought about recognizing her as its master. Speaking of which, in terms of judgment and self-awareness, the dragon race was definitely not comparable to the phoenix race and the white tiger race. As for the Qilin race, they would not be able to catch up even if they tried to flatter them. The dragon race was known for being good for nothing, eating a lot, having a lot of strength, but no brains at all. Of course, the dragon race would never admit to such comments from the outside world. But now, it was clearly proving that the dragon race indeed lived up to its reputation. "Then I'm relieved." Azure nodded. "Don't worry about what?" A certain dragon didn't understand, but Leng Ruoxue and the rest understood in a second. When Song said don't worry, he meant that they could beat him up to their heart's content. Thanks, Azure didn't explain further and directly scratched the dragon's thick skin. In the beginning, the dragon didn't take it seriously. It thought that it was just a kitten. How sharp could its claws be? With this thought in mind, it didn't even try to dodge and just wanted to take the hit with its thick skin. In addition to the dragon, the other members of the dragon and phoenix races who had been rescued were also shocked. In comparison, the white tiger race, who had already witnessed the fearsomeness of the Azure Sea, were much calmer. The White Tiger King was especially happy to have a beast to keep IT company. This old earthworm has finally tasted the power of that terrifying kitten. He deserved it. While the White Tiger King was gloating in his heart, the dragon that was attacked by the Azure Dragon was in an extremely miserable state. It really regretted provoking this cat. He had wanted to fight with the other party one-on-one, thinking that he could show off the might of the Dragon Emperor. Who knew that he would be taken care of by a cat? This time, he had lost a lot of face. The dragon cried out in pain and was secretly worried. It jumped up and down to avoid Song's attacks, but Song was extremely agile. No matter how the dragon dodged, it could only scratch the other party. This fact made the dragon feel depressed. In fact, it would have been fine if they were evenly matched, but the key was that the battle was one-sided. The dragon could only be scratched passively without any chance to fight back. How could it not be depressed? It wasn't until a certain dragon's body was covered in wounds and a terrible sight that Song stopped with satisfaction. A certain dragon, who was greatly stimulated, sadly burrowed into a corner and drew circles, wanting to curse that there would be no fish to eat in the blue. "You bastard! I don't eat fish." Aware of a certain dragon's thoughts, Azure Fire roared, "If I want to eat, I'll only eat what Nyo makes. I like to eat dragons," Azure said through gritted teeth. Upon hearing this, all the Long Quans present were so frightened that their faces turned pale. They immediately hid far away to avoid being targeted by Tsang. Seeing this scene, Lung Ruoxue was helpless. She hugged Song and coaxed, "All right, Azure, don't scare them. For Nyo's sake, I'll let you off for now. And remember this. I'll be your boss in the future," Song said fiercely. He had to first confirm his position so that these guys wouldn't be confused about the situation. "I'm the one." At this moment, a weak voice was heard and a small head popped out of Shui Mo's arms. "And you are?" Song coldly glanced at him and the little black head was so scared that it went back into Shui Mo's arms. Shui Mo smiled helplessly. The beast deity was like a mouse seeing a cat when he saw Senior Tsang. He didn't know what to say. "Baby, so you're here with Shui? I thought you left with Ice Spirit." Lung Ruoxue exclaimed in surprise when she saw the little black beast. She didn't know why her baby was always avoiding it. It was really not easy to see her. What Lung Ruoxue didn't know was that Bao Bao wasn't hiding from her, but under Tsang's threat, Bao Bao didn't dare to appear in front of her easily. When she saw Lung Ruoxue, baby Su's aggrieved eyes immediately welled up with tears. She looked at Lung Ruoxue pitifully and called out softly, "Sister, I missed you so much." Chapter 2988, The End, 11. Sister also misses the baby. Lung Ruoxue laughed as she reached out to hug baby. However, baby saw Tsang glaring at him from Lung Ruoxue's arms, so he could only purse his lips and avoid her. "Can't I enjoy my sister's warm embrace anymore?" Baby Su was unusually sad, but Lung Ruoxue didn't understand why. She thought that baby Su didn't like her anymore, and her heart started to hurt as well. The atmosphere suddenly froze. The low pressure from Lung Ruoxue's body caused the beasts around her to feel a great deal of pressure. At this time, Feng Wu, who had been wanting to speak, gathered up her courage and said excitedly, "Boss, I finally get to see you. Little Wu." The baby called out softly and returned to Shui Mo's arms. Seeing it like this, Feng Wu was very surprised. It looked at Tsang in its master's arms and stretched out its wings to take the baby into its arms. "Boss, Wu." A certain dragon also looked at the baby while crying bitterly. The two beasts communicated silently with their eyes, and everything was conveyed without words. Now, the dragon could feel the fear of its boss. This cat was definitely not a normal cat. Which cat wouldn't be afraid when it saw the king of the four king divine beasts? Besides, their boss was a beast god, but their boss' natural suppression of the beast race had no effect on the cat. What did this mean? It meant that the cat was no ordinary beastie. In any case, it would be very, very difficult to make it believe that the cat's bloodline was above boss. It had to be said that at this moment, the dragon knew the truth. Unfortunately, it realized it too late, and it only realized it after being beaten up by Tsang. If it had thought of this earlier, it might not have been beaten up. As for now, the beating would definitely be in vain. However, seeing that its boss was as obedient as a little mouse in front of that cat, it instantly decided to stay far away from this cat in the future. After the three teams had gathered, in order to make it easier for Lung Ruoxue and the other two, as well as the beasts from the three clans who had been suppressed for many years, to recuperate, they temporarily stayed in the city lord's residence in the city of Wasteland. Other than reuniting with their clansmen, a certain dragon also took this time to secretly ask Uncle Long about Tsang's identity. Seeing that the dragon had pulled him to a corner just to find out Tsang's identity, Uncle Long stared at the dragon for a long time. When he was about to see its fur, Uncle Long said calmly, "Senior Tsang is the spirit of the god-protecting pagoda, so you'd better be obedient. Otherwise, Senior Tsang won't care if you're the Dragon Emperor or not and will beat you up without hesitation." "The spirit of the god-protecting tower? Is it the one I know?" The dragon asked carefully. "Could there be a second god-protecting pagoda in this world?" Uncle Long blinked and laughed to himself. It seemed that this old dragon was quite frightened by Senior Tsang. Probably not. It's really that? The dragon still couldn't believe this fact and asked with certainty. Yes. Otherwise, why would the beast god baby not even dare to make a sound in front of Senior Tsang? Isn't that enough proof? Uncle Long asked with a smile. That's enough to prove it. A certain kind of gloominess said. He really felt that he had been deceived. It turned out that the cat was not a real cat. Wu, why did he pretend to be a weak little beast to deceive the public? He even tricked me into fighting the cat one-on-one. In the end, I'm covered in wounds and I don't even have a chance to fight back. The dragon's regret increased even more, and his heart couldn't be any angrier. Thanks, Yus. Hurry up and tell me. The dragon quickly said. First, be good. Second, don't go against Senior Tsong's wishes. Third, which is also the most important one, you must listen to Shui. Uncle Long counted his fingers as he spoke. Why do you listen to Shui? The dragon was puzzled. Even if it had recognized a master, it felt that it should have dragon rights. What's more, it had not recognized a master yet. Because Shui is Senior Tsong's master. Senior Tsong is the most obedient to Shui. Uncle Long said with a smile. Arg. Really? The dragon was shocked. Back then, even Master Yu failed to make the Guardian Tower spirit recognize him as its master. He didn't expect Lung Ruoxue to actually do it. How could I lie to you about that? By the way, you still don't know that Shui is Master Yes disciple, right? Uncle Long threw out another bombshell, which directly made a certain dragon dizzy and shake its head repeatedly. It didn't know. I just heard. So, quickly recognize me as your master. With Shui as your backing, Senior Tsong will definitely show you mercy when he beats you up. Uncle Long suggested with a smile. Of course, it would recognize its master, but if that was the purpose of recognizing its master, why did the dragon feel that the reason for recognizing its master was particularly awkward? Shouldn't it be because Lung Ruoxue had saved their clan that they recognized her as their master? It could accept the reason that the other party was Master Yes disciple, but this. It was somewhat unable to accept it. But it couldn't deny that this reason was very attractive to it. The main thing was that it could also tell that the cat didn't like it. Seeing that the dragon was still hesitating, Uncle Long patted him on the shoulder and said, think about it carefully. There's no time to lose. You know, Senior Tsong has a very bad temper. Who knows when he'll flip out again? After saying this, Uncle Long left gracefully, leaving a certain dragon in a daze. After a while, the dragon came back to its senses and quickly told its people what it had heard. Then, it went to find the Phoenix King and the White Tiger King. When it saw the two Beast Kings, it quickly told them what Uncle Long had told it. After Feng Wu heard this, she smiled and said, Our Phoenix clan has already recognized a master. What? When did this happen? How come we didn't know about it? A certain dragon and the White Tiger King were both enraged upon hearing this. Feng Wu was actually acting alone, and this really hurt their hearts. So, they were allies. How could they be treated like this? Back then, when they had just been locked up, they could still communicate with each other. At that time, the old psychic of the Phoenix clan had clearly told them that they would definitely be rescued and that the person who saved them would be their future master. At that time, the two Beast Kings did not take his words too seriously. They only thought that he was comforting them. After all, Fog Ice was so powerful that it could even kill a divine master. Who else was more powerful than a divine master? However, after they were rescued, they were a little dumbfounded. Because the ones who saved their two races were a little baby and a cat, the matter of recognizing their masters was delayed. After a certain dragon found out that the little boy and Lung Ruoxue were together, he had the intention of acknowledging Lung Ruoxue as his master. However, at that time, Lung Ruoxue was in a hurry to go to another place, so the acknowledgement process was delayed. As for the White Tiger King, it was beaten up by Tsang before it could even speak to Shui Mo. Therefore, its mind was in a mess at that time and it didn't even think about it. Now that Feng Wu said that it had already recognized its master, the two Beast Kings were dumbfounded. Chapter 2989. The End, 12. A feeling of being abandoned slowly rose from the bottom of their hearts. The two Beast Kings felt that their fragile glass hearts had been completely hurt. After clearing his throat, Feng Wu said in a depressed manner, Why are you guys looking at me like that? When Master recuperates, you can recognize him as your master. In fact, it didn't want to get rid of these two guys when it recognized him as its master, but it just happened to be a coincidence, and these two guys obviously didn't have such a good opportunity. However, it did not feel guilty at all. Who asked these two guys to be so blind, just coming out and going against cold first? Who could he blame? We can only wait for Master to rest. The two Beast Kings were helpless and could only wait calmly. At the same time, he could also get to know more about the people around his future master. However, after understanding the identity and strength of the people around Lung Ruoxue, they sadly realized that they were noobs when they were around their master. The dragon did not expect that the little boy it saw back then was actually a cosmic bangle. Although Green Vessel's appearance was not quite the same as the one it had seen many years ago, it believed that no one would dare to pretend to be that bangle. Otherwise, it would have been captured by the rhyme Ice Old Woman long ago. As for the identity of the demonic man who had been protecting their future master, they had also found out that he was the mistress of the Dark World. The Lord of the Netherworld prison who was as famous as Lord Yu, but more cold-blooded, heartless, ruthless, and brutal than Lord Yu. This identity is so scary. However, was the person they saw really the mistress of the Dark World? Why was it different from the rumors? Didn't they say that the Dark Lord was cold-blooded? Who was that guy who was smiling like an idiot in front of his future master? Didn't they say that the mistress of the Dark World was heartless and ruthless? But how could that person be heartless at all? Was it brutal? Of course, this was mainly reflected in the fact that as long as they had the slightest intention of getting close to their future master, that person would immediately give them a warning look. All in all, the mistress of the Dark World was seriously inconsistent with the one in the rumors. The Dark Lord, who ate your integrity, don't take over the future master all by yourself. The demon's food protection caused the two old beasts, who wanted to get close to Lung Ruoxue and please their future master, to be deeply worried. After trying a few times, the two old beasts had no choice but to give up. It seemed that he could only wait for his master to recover first. While Lung Ruoxue, Qingju, and Song were trying their best to recover, the beasts from the three clans who had been imprisoned for a long time were also trying their best to recover. However, it was not something that could be done in a short period of time. After all, they had been imprisoned for so many years, and the beasts from the three clans had suffered great losses. Hence, it would take a long time. Originally, if Green Vessel was willing to move them into the bracelet, it would definitely be of great help to their recovery. However, Green Vessel was too arrogant and resented them for causing him to return to the poverty line right after he recovered his strength. Therefore, he was angry and directly refused to accept them. If she wanted to get into the bracelet, she would have to wait until they recovered. Just like that, Lung Ruoxue and the rest stayed in the city lord's residence in the city of abandoned ruins for a few months. After the three of them had recovered, Qingju was merciful and moved the three beasts into the bracelet. Of course, before they were moved into the bracelet, the orcs from the dragon race and the white tiger race, who had finally gotten a chance to get close to their future masters, unhesitatingly acknowledged them as their masters. At the same time, they had to be wary of the secret mistress attack. Thanks to their surprise, before they could return to Demon City, they received a message from Lung Ruhan and the others, saying that they were about to be robbed. Upon hearing that someone dared to raid Demon City, the team immediately rushed toward their destination joyfully. At this moment, Lung Ruhan and the others were stopped in the middle of a road less than 10,000 meters away from Demon City. Although this road was not the only way to Demon City, there were usually a lot of people on it. However, there were only a few of them on the wide road, so it seemed rather deserted. Looking at the man in black opposite him, Cheng Wu raised his brows. He purposely put on a fearful expression and asked, "Are you guys trying to rob me?" "That's right." The leader of the men in black nodded. However, they didn't rob him of his wealth or his body. They robbed him of his people. "We have no money," Cheng Wu said as he clutched his storage ring nervously. The corner of the leader's mouth twitched a few times, and his heart was in turmoil. If you don't have money, why are you holding on to your storage ring? Wasn't this clearly showing that he had nothing to hide? "We don't rob." The man in black gritted his teeth and explained. However, Cheng Wu was even more worried after hearing that. He howled and scared the men in black. What are you howling for? For whom are you howling? The leader of the men in black said. Are you guys trying to rape me? Cheng Wu clutched at his shirt and was so scared that his entire body was trembling and his face was pale. We don't rape. Even if he wanted to rape someone, he wouldn't rape you. The leader of the men in black was a little mad when he heard Wan Wu's words. On the other hand, Leng Ruhan, Leng Qingtian, and the others who were at the side were laughing in their hearts when they heard this. That's hard to say. Cheng Wu had a look of disbelief. Don't worry. I definitely won't rape her. The leader of the black-robed men was so angry that he shouted. You're really not going to rob? Cheng Wu asked cautiously. I want tea. The leader of the men in black guaranteed. Since that's the case, we'll be leaving. You don't have to send us off. After he finished speaking, Cheng Wu gave Leng Ruhan and the others a look. Everyone had the same thought and decided to leave. Wait, who allowed you to leave? Didn't you hear me say I'm going to rob you? When the leader of the black-robed men saw that the other party was really leaving, he was immediately dumbfounded. After he came to his senses, he immediately blocked Cheng Wu and the others and roared. You guys are not robbing us of money or sex, so there's nothing to rob. If we don't leave, are we going to stay and chat with you? Cheng Wu said matter-of-factly. We're going to kidnap him. The leader of the men in black roared again after hearing Cheng Wu's words. You don't even want to rape her, and you want to rape her? Cheng Wu was unable to understand. Right. The leader of the men in black nodded. Give me a reason. Cheng Wu said with a, I won't leave with you if you don't give me a reason. No reason. The leader of the men in black roared and couldn't help but curse in his heart. Did the Divine Master's estate need a reason to arrest someone? If it wasn't for his lord's increasing need for human blood, they wouldn't have wanted to wait for a rabbit on the road. But the rabbit in front of them was obviously not easy to manipulate. Of course, the leader of the men in black did not dare to reveal his identity. Otherwise, the Divine Master's estate would become the public enemy of the divine realm. However, just because he didn't say anything, it didn't mean that Cheng Wu and the others didn't recognize their standard. Other than that old woman, Wu Yan, no one else could train such a stupid subordinate of the man in black. Chapter 2990, The End, 13. You have no reason to think that we will leave with you. Are you trying to kidnap a silly boy? Cheng Wu's expression immediately changed when he heard that. Brat, you have to leave no matter what. The leader of the men in black saw that the other party was disobedient and could only threaten him. In his eyes, these few people were so weak that it would be as easy as stepping on a few ants to kill them. Therefore, he did not take Leng Ruhan and the others seriously at all. He would never have thought that they had hidden their strength and were pretending to be weak to eat the tiger. So, did he become angry out of embarrassment and threaten her? Young master, old master, someone is trying to rob us, what should we do? After Feng De finished speaking to the man in black, he turned around to seek Leng Ruhan and Leng Qingshan's opinion. Who knew that Leng Ruhan didn't even raise her head? Leng Qingtian also looked up at the sky with a nonchalant expression. Seeing them like this, Cheng Wu didn't say anything either, and the atmosphere became cold. Seeing this, the leader of the men in black was furious. He turned around and shouted, "Capture these ants!" The men in black immediately took action. One of the men in black was sent flying the moment he got close to Cheng Wu. It's so lively! At this moment, a melodious female voice entered the ears of everyone present. All the black-clothed people turned their heads in unison, and then all of them were like stone statues, stiff and motionless. The men in black were wailing in their hearts. They were finished. I'm finished. How did he meet this demon? There was no one in black who did not recognize Leng Ruoxue. Furthermore, in their hearts, Leng Ruoxue's scariness was comparable to their master. He's even more terrifying than his lord. At the very least, his lord would not easily take their lives, but Leng Ruoxue would. The man in black, who had never expected to meet Leng Ruoxue here, was so depressed that his heart broke. Miss, they want to rob us. They want to rob people. The moment Cheng Wu saw Leng Ruoxue, he immediately complained. You dare to rob my people? Does that fog ripple bitch want to start a war right now? Leng Ruoxue turned to ask the leader of the men in black. Your people? They're your people? When the leader of the men in black heard Leng Ruoxue's words, he finally reacted and asked in disbelief. Then he specially added, Young Lady Leng, you've got the wrong person. We're not God Lord Fogripple's men. The leader of the men in black was filled with regret. How did it end up in Leng Ruoxue's hands? He was really unlucky. At the same time, he began to regret his decision to kidnap her on this road. He knew that Demon City was very close to here, yet he still harbored hopes of getting away with it. Great, now he had run into the 10,000-year dark iron plate. That's right. Let me introduce them to you. They are my grandfather, brother, and subordinates. As for whether you admit to being a member of Rime Ice or not, that's not important to me. Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. That's right, Xue, just directly crack it. Uncle Long nodded in agreement. When the men in black heard this, their faces turned pale with fear. Leng Ruoxue even smiled in an extremely friendly manner. Don't worry, I won't kill you so easily. However, don't think that I'll let you go. By the way, do you want to test my medicine or die from torture? Choose one. Thanks, is there a third choice? The leader of the men in black asked carefully. The man in black was silent. He was extremely unwilling in his heart. Was he going to just surrender like this? From the corner of his eye, he swept his gaze across Leng Ruoxue's group. He saw Uncle Long rubbing his palms together, Dong Fengyu with a faint smile, the snow-white cat with its sharp claws, a cute little boy who was also staring at him with an unfriendly expression, and the countless beasts who were eager to try. On his side, more than half of the dozens of men in black were like frost-beaten eggplants, shriveled up like dehydrated vegetables. Let's not talk about combat power, just the difference in numbers alone made the leader of the men in black not know how to continue this fight with the other party. Woo, this is too much of a bully. I choose to test the medicine. The leader of the men in black surrendered helplessly when he saw the difference in strength between the two sides. In his opinion, at least he wouldn't die from the test. It was better than dying from torture. Unfortunately, he was wrong. He only wanted to live. How could he know that testing medicine was the real thing that made life worse than death? However, Leng Ruoxue was rather satisfied with his choice. A wise man knows how to practice, and surrendering was the right choice. It just so happened that a while ago, Luiyue, Shen Nuo, and Jiang Ning had been complaining to her that there was no one to test the medicine on, and as a result, Wu Yan had just sent them over. Young Miss is getting more and more domineering. With just one move, these guys surrendered. After deciding on the man in black's fate, Cheng Wu immediately flattered him. When Leng Ruoxue heard this, she felt a little speechless. She thought to herself, this isn't my credit, it's the advantage of numbers that helped me. After easily settling the small dispute, Leng Ruoxue and the rest brought the men in black who had surrendered and returned to Demon City in a grandiose manner. This news was quickly reported to Wu Yan. After knowing that her subordinate had been caught by Leng Ruoxue, Ripple Mist was furious. She glared at the leader of the men in black who was in charge of this matter and shouted, "How did you arrange their work? You know that it's so close to Demon City, yet you still dare to let them catch you there." Master, that road leads to several major cities. The flow of people is very large, so it's the best place to catch people. This time, they were unlucky to have bumped into Leng Ruoxue and the others. The leader explained, "Don't capture them on the road. Just capture the people from the major families." After thinking for a while, Wu Xiao ordered. The leader of the men in black heard this and quickly tried to stop him. "Master, if we do this, we will cause public anger." What was it that they had not dared to make any big moves all this time? Isn't it to maintain the positive image of his lord? If they really captured the people from the big families, then they really couldn't hide anything. Those who submit to me will prosper, and those who resist me will perish. Now, it's time for those crafty major forces to make a choice. Fog Ripple laughed coldly. Now that things had come to this, There was no way she would leave those forces to Lung Ruoxue. That was why she wanted her subordinates to capture all of them. Those who submitted to her would naturally be able to live, and those who resisted would become her food. This was a win-win solution, so why not? Wu Xian was very satisfied with her own idea. This was a time when she needed people. Although the reverent god-level cultivators under her were getting fewer and fewer, if she had the help of the other major forces, she believed that her chances of winning the life-and-death battle with Lung Ruoxue would be much higher. However, she knew that the biggest variable on Lung Ruoxue's side was Tsang and the mistress of the dark world. However, what she was most worried about was Azure. After all, Azure belonged to the divine realm. If Azure didn't care and insisted on attacking, even the laws of the world wouldn't be able to restrain it. She wasn't afraid of the mistress of the dark world. After all, the mistress of the dark world belonged to the Nine Nether prison. She believed that the other party wouldn't risk the collapse of the space and stick his nose into other people's business. Otherwise, she would have a bigger headache. Chapter 2991. The End, 14. How could he make Azure not act? Wu Jing's head was spinning, but she couldn't think of a good way. The leader of the men in black, who had received her order, saw that her lord had made up her mind and could only carry it out. At this moment, Lung Ruoxue had already returned to Demon City. After handing over the group of men in black to Jiang Ning and the other two, she went back into the bracelet and started cultivating. Even though her body had almost fully recovered, the spiritual energy in her body was still insufficient. In order to deal with Wu Ling, the spiritual energy in her body had to be abundant. Hence, Lung Ruoxue did not want to waste any more time. Just like Wu Ling's premonition, she was also clear that it would not be long before the two of them would truly fight. Lung Ruoxue was absorbing spirit qi in her bracelet while Uncle Long and the others were busy preparing for the battle. First of all, they had to properly arrange for the personnel below the God Emperor rank in Demon City. They didn't wish for any accidents to happen to them while they were preparing for battle. After all, that shameless fellow, Rhyme, was capable of doing anything. After some discussion, Uncle Long and the others decided on a house as the best place to settle them down. After the owner of the house, a certain Grass, found out about this, he was very unwilling. The main thing was that he did not want a group of strangers to live in his territory. It was so inconvenient. However, after Uncle Long told him that this was Shui Er's idea, the Grass immediately agreed with a charming smile. Uncle Long was helpless after the incident. Fortunately, the Grass listened to Shui. Otherwise, he really didn't know what to do. After these matters were discussed, everyone split up. Uncle Long, Dongfang Yu, Mu Li, as well as Kankus Armament Guild Headquarters and Alchemy Guild Headquarters, were responsible for receiving people. Dongfang Lin was responsible for sending messages to the various forces. When the other forces heard that there would be a big operation, their hearts trembled. They knew what the other party meant without saying it. However, none of them had expected this news to come so suddenly. However, after receiving the news, they quickly took action. Although Demon City had only given them 100 slots, it was still better than nothing. At the very least, if something were to happen in the future, these 100 people would be enough to pass down the bloodline of their families. It could be said that the factions that were on good terms with Demon City knew their own limitations. None of them had the thought that the other party had to ensure the safety of their entire family. After all, that was too unrealistic. The other party wasn't their parents, so why should they control their entire family? It was a favor that the other party was willing to inform them before the operation, not an obligation. Most importantly, they had a good relationship with Demon City, so they considered benefits and Demon City's strength more than anything else. Moreover, the difference in strength between them and Demon City prevented them from having any unrealistic thoughts. In short, they were very grateful for Demon City's favor. After all, they had been informed before the operation. As for how to ensure that they would not be affected, that was their own problem. In less than half a month, Uncle Long and the others, who had gone to the Blacksmiths Guild and Alchemists Guild, returned after completing their tasks. Soon after, The forces that were on good terms with them made full use of the quota given to them by Demon City and brought people to seek refuge. Before coming to Demon City, the representatives of the various factions had been told to behave themselves. Hence, after settling down in Demon City, they were all extremely obedient. The families of these people had also begun to evacuate in secret. For a time, the divine realm appeared calm on the surface, but in reality, it was already turbulent in private with many unstable factors. Thanks on a certain day. Song Zheng was lying in the garden and basking in the sun out of boredom. Suddenly, he frowned and disappeared from the garden. When Uncle Long and the others saw this, their faces were full of question marks. However, Senior Song had always been carefree, so they felt at ease after thinking about it. After Azure left the garden, he immediately appeared in the God Pagoda. At this moment, the God-protecting tower was being madly attacked by the fog. Song appeared outside the tower and asked with a frown, "Little Ripple bitch, are you crazy?" It didn't expect that the old woman would come to its door instead of looking for trouble with it. It was really strange. Just as it thought this, Azure immediately felt that something was wrong. It then saw the smug-looking fog phoenix stop attacking and disappear. Realizing that he might have been fooled, Song Nu wanted to chase after Fog Phoenix, but he suddenly found that he was trapped. It knew nothing about the formation, and after a series of random attacks, the formation had no flaws. At this time, Wu Cheng's proud and arrogant laughter came to its ears. "Ha! Song, don't waste your energy. How could I possibly let you escape after setting it up for so long? You should just stay inside. After I'm done with Lung Ruoxue, I'll deal with you. You want to take care of my girl? Dream on." Song scoffed and then shouted, "Old bitch, let me out or you'll definitely regret it." "Oh really? I'd like to see how you're going to make me regret this." Wu Xiao provoked. "Old bitch, you asked for this." Azure was completely enraged. He extended his small claw and a huge red flower appeared in it. It was the blood cherry blossom. At this moment, the flower was almost dried up. The entire flower leaf drooped down, and the petals drooped listlessly. As soon as she saw Azure, blood cherry blossom trembled. At this moment, Fog Nightmare, who had already returned to the Godlord's estate and was using her mind to sense Azure's condition in the spell formation, shouted, "Song, what do you want to do? Let me out or I'll tear it apart." Song threatened. "Don't you dare. You." Ripple Mist was shocked and furious, and she tried to summon the blood cherry blossom. However, no matter what she did, she was unable to contact the blood cherry blossom. It was as if there were thousands of mountains and rivers between her and the blood cherry blossom, and she was unable to reach the end. Damn it. It was obvious that Song was behind this. Fog was filled with hatred. The anger in his heart rose even more. Let Song out? That was impossible. It wasn't easy to trick Song into her formation. If she let it go just like that, wouldn't all her efforts be in vain? However, her blood cherry blossom clone was in the hands of the other party. For a moment, Fog's conflicted heart clenched. Could it be that he would always be controlled by Tsong? Mist Ripple was unwilling to accept this. Just as Wu Xiao was feeling vexed, Tsong, who couldn't wait any longer, had already begun to destroy the flower. As she felt the pain of the blood cherry blossom, Mist Ripple's heart was bleeding. "Lord Song, please spare me. I didn't do anything wrong." The blood cherry blossom, whose petals were torn by Azure in the array, cried and begged. Chapter 2992, The End, 15, Song sneered, "You didn't do anything wrong, but you shouldn't be that old woman's clone." After saying that, Azure's movements became much faster, and blood cherry blossom's cries of pain grew louder and louder. In the blink of an eye, the petals of the blood cherry blossom were all torn off by Azure, leaving only a bare pistil. A pair of teary blood-red eyes appeared in the center of the flower, looking pitifully at Azure. Unfortunately, Azure was a heartless person. He naturally wouldn't have any soft-hearted thoughts about the blood cherry blossoms. Seeing that Fog didn't compromise, Cold One didn't give up and used his sharp claws to destroy the pistil. The blood cherry blossom didn't even have the chance to beg for mercy. In an instant, the pistol exploded and turned into powder that fell to the ground. Ah! Arg! Wu Xian, who was in the Divine Master's estate, cried out in pain and spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. How detestable! While she was hesitating, Song, that damn guy, had already made his move. The mist was so regretful. Although she had long known that Song was a hot-tempered person, she had never expected that the other party would not be willing to wait for even a moment. If it was in the past, the two of them would at least be able to bargain, but this time, she had miscalculated. His plan had been completely disrupted by Tsang. Originally, Rime had planned to find Lung Ruoxue to make the first move after trapping Tsang so as not to waste the great opportunity to trap Tsang. However, she didn't expect that Tsang wouldn't follow the script at all and directly destroyed one of her clones, causing her plan to fail completely. The last powerful clone was destroyed by Azure. This was a serious blow to Fog's strength. However, in this case, she would not let Azure out. He also didn't allow anyone to save Tsang. After making up her mind, Wu Jing decided to continue setting up the spell formation. This time, her target was Demon City. Her clone was destroyed, causing her to lose a lot of strength. She naturally had to do her best to delay time so that she could make up for her strength as soon as possible. At this moment, Lung Ruoxue and the rest were still unaware that Tsang was trapped. Tsang was isolated within the array and could not contact anyone. After half a year, the spiritual energy in Lung Ruoxue's body finally became more abundant. She was also fully confident and prepared to fight to the death with the mist ripple. However, she only heard that Tsang had gone missing after the bracelet. How did Tsang go missing? Lung Ruoxue was astonished. Senior Tsang left half a year ago and hasn't returned. Uncle Long said carefully. It should be in trouble. Lung Ruoxue said after some thought. No way. With Senior Azure's strength, even Fog Ice might not be a match for him, Uncle Long said in disbelief, but he didn't continue. It wasn't that he didn't want to suspect Wu Xiao, but he felt that that old woman wouldn't be so muddle-headed as to directly fight with Senior Tsang. That wouldn't do her any good. Schwer, let's quickly go save Senior Tsang. Hearing this, Uncle Long immediately became a little anxious. In addition, he also felt a little guilty. Thanks regretfully, even though he knew that Senior Tsang had gone missing, the people he sent out were unable to find him. As such, he didn't know how to explain this to Schwer. It was a good thing that Schwer did not blame him, or else he would have died of guilt. None of you need to go out. Suddenly, Wu Ling's voice rang in Lung Ruoxue and the rest's ears. Then, they felt an endless pressure engulfing their hearts, causing their bodies and hearts to feel heavy. What did you do? Lung Ruoxue said calmly. After half a year, the God-binding formation I gave you has finally succeeded. Ripple Mist replied with pride. It was the God-binding formation again. Lung Ruoxue thought to herself, looks like this old woman is using the God-binding formation as her trump card. However, that formation is indeed very useful. He just didn't know to what extent Wu Yen had done this time. Even though Lung Ruoxue had such thoughts in her heart, her expression did not change. She asked, Azure is also trapped by you? Not bad. Originally, I didn't intend to use the Great Divine Binding Array against you people. Unfortunately, that hateful Tsang has angered me. So, if you want to blame someone, blame him. Wu Yan's voice was filled with the smell of gunpowder. After she finished speaking, her voice disappeared. Schwer, what do we do now? Uncle Long and the others didn't look too good. On one hand, they were worried. On the other hand, they could faintly feel their life force disappearing bit by bit uncontrollably. This should be the power of the God-binding formation. Let's go check on the others. Those who are weak, enter the space. Lung Ruoxue also felt that the situation was not good. After surveying the area, she helplessly realized that other than the hierarch experts who could barely withstand the aftereffects of the God-binding array, the deities below the hierarch rank would not be able to withstand it. Without any hesitation, she immediately moved everyone into the bracelet. At this moment, the dragons, phoenixes, and white tigers who were cultivating in the bracelet immediately stopped their cultivation when they noticed the abnormality. After understanding the situation, they were all rather terrified. It wasn't easy for them to get out of the God-binding array, so why were they locked up again? Master, isn't Demon City your territory? How did Wu Xian find a way to set up the great God-binding formation here? Feng Wu asked in confusion. He had once been harmed by the God-binding Great Array, and it could be said that he had a deep hatred for this Great Array. That woman is crazy. She actually set up the God-binding array outside the entire Demon City, and the array I used a trace of her soul. So, the power of the God-binding array outside the Demon City is even greater than the one you were trapped in. Leng Ruoxue explained. Leng Ruoxue had not expected that the fog ripple would do something so crazy. However, she was clear that in order to set up such a large-scale soul-binding array, she would have to pay a considerable price. Whether it was the crystal stones or the strand of soul that the fog ripple had given up, they were all one-time consumables that could not be retrieved again. Apart from trapping them, one of Wu Xian's purposes for setting up this great formation was probably to obtain life force from them. However, it was obvious that she had miscalculated. With Green Vessel's heaven-defying space, how could Leng Ruoxue let Wu Xian's plot succeed? After consoling the frightened beasts for a while, Leng Ruoxue brought the evildoer away from the bracelet. After some thought, she moved Uncle Long and the others in. Although Grandpa and brother were not very willing to go in, they also understood that if they stayed by Xue Er's side at this time, they would not be helping her, but adding to her troubles. In Xue Er's words, the life force they had lost outside would only benefit Wu Jing. Chapter 2993, The End, 16. After sending everyone in, only Leng Ruoxue and the demon were left in the huge Leng family residence. The demon was very happy. It was the mist ripple that gave him and Xue the chance to be alone. So, if he had the chance, he would definitely thank that woman properly. Who knew that just as this thought formed in their minds, a little boy would appear beside them with a face that looked like he was asking for a beating. He then pounced into Leng Ruoxue's arms. Instantly, the demon was so angry that he almost choked. What are you doing out here? Be careful not to have your life force sucked away by the God-binding formation. The demon threatened. I know formations, and I can help Big Sister break the formation. So, I'm here to help. Qing Ju said calmly, not taking the demon's words seriously at all. Help? Did you help? The demon scoffed at Qing Ju's words. Sister, have I ever made things worse? Qing Ju ignored the demon and asked Leng Ruoxue directly. You guys continue chatting, I'll go check on the array. With that, Leng Ruoxue threw Green Vessel into the demon's arms and slipped away. You've fallen into my hands, right? As he watched Xue Er's back view, the demon lifted Qing Ju into the air and said proudly, A vile person has achieved success. Qing Ju said resentfully, Whatever you say, you're in my hands now. The demon laughed in a very lecherous manner. He was quite pleased that Xue was on his side. Meanwhile, Green Vessel was so angry that he almost went crazy. However, he was a magnanimous person and would not be calculative with a pretty boy. Then, Green Vessel turned his face away and ignored the evildoer. The evil man laughed as he carried Green Vessel with one hand and chased after Leng Ruoxue. At this moment, Leng Ruoxue was standing at the highest point of the mountain peak, looking at the array formation that covered the sky above Demon City. Even she was slightly impressed by Wu Xiao's crazy actions. The manpower and material resources consumed by such a huge array were unimaginable, but Wu Yan had done it. Similarly, the larger the array, the longer it would take to break it. From the looks of it, Ripple Mist was trying to stall for time. Leng Ruoxue's head was starting to hurt. She already knew Wu Cheng's intentions and sinister intentions. This mist ripple formation could be said to be killing many birds with one stone. He was stalling for time. She was giving her trouble. He would reduce the strength of her side and collect some life force for himself. Leng Ruoxue was very clear that if she were to dispel this formation, she would run out of spiritual energy again. Once Wu Xian's strategy of stalling for time succeeded, she would definitely be no match for her and fall right into Wu Xian's trap. If they didn't release the God-binding array, they would be trapped forever. Slowly, they would end up like the Phoenix race, Dragon race, and White Tiger race, waiting for their life force to be exhausted and die. No matter which outcome it wasn't what Leng Ruoxue wanted. To Wu Yuan, the loss of breaking the array was not small. However, she was betting that Leng Ruoxue would not be able to break the God-binding array that she had set up with her divine soul. It could be said that this was a battle without smoke. It was impossible to predict who would win or lose. After all, there were too many unexpected things about formations. But the worst result was that both sides would suffer. When the demon found Leng Ruoxue, he saw her frowning as she sat on a smooth boulder at the peak of the mountain. She was in a daze as she looked at the looming array in the sky. Thanks after a long time. Leng Ruoxue smiled and said, "Demon, from tomorrow onwards, I'm going to start removing this God-binding array. I would also like to know who's better in terms of formations, me or that wastrel. It's definitely my schwer." The demon didn't even think and directly said. Leng Ruoxue chuckled when she heard this. The evildoer really trusted her unconditionally. She was very happy. Elder sister, although the formation of that old woman, Wu Yan, was taught by the old master, I also believe that elder sister will definitely win. Qingju also flattered. At this moment he suddenly hated his old master. Why did he teach that woman formations for no reason? He was just giving them trouble. However, he could only think about it in his heart. After all, the person he was complaining about was the previous master he had acknowledged. The two of you have so much confidence in me, it's giving me a lot of pressure. Leng Ruoxue laughed as she teased. Pressure is also a form of motivation. Good luck. I will always protect you. The demon hurriedly said. Sister, I can help. I won't make things worse. Please believe me. Qingju expressed his feelings once again. Leng Ruoxue touched Qingju's cute little face and nodded. I know, green vessel is the best. With Leng Ruoxue's praise, Qingju's proud little tail was about to rise up. He even gave the evildoer a threatening look. However, this time, the evildoer did not hold it against Qingju. The next day, Leng Ruoxue and Qingju started to break the formation. On Wu Yan's side, most of the people from the major forces had been captured and all of them were locked up in her domain. Unfortunately, not many people from the 8 great divine regions were caught. After he stopped paying attention to Leng Ruoxue's situation, Wu Chen returned to her domain. Within her domain, many people were tied up by vines and suspended in midair. In a blood pool not far away, there were 3 small blood cherry blossoms that had yet to grow. These were her newly created clones, and they were currently in the most need of nutrients. Every day, these 3 palm-sized blood cherry blossoms needed to feed on the blood of a human to satisfy their growth needs. Of all the major forces that had been captured, the one who had been locked up here for the longest time had been locked up for 3 months. In the past 3 months, they had seen nearly 100 people being fed with blood cherry blossoms. Those nauseating and terrifying scenes were still fresh in their minds. Because of the shock, many people's hearts had reached their limits. The reason why Wu Yan had kept them alive was naturally to scare them. Now, she felt that it was almost time. Standing by the blood pool, Ripple gently raised her beautiful eyes and gave a look to the black-clothed man's subordinates. Immediately, the people from the major forces who were hanging in the air were all put down. Have you all thought it through? Whether you want to be loyal to me or become food for my blood Sakura clone, it's up to you. Ripple's beautiful eyes swept over the pale-faced crowd as she softly spoke. Wu Han, as the master of the divine realm, how can you treat us like this? One of the Yin family members criticized with extreme hatred. Then how do you want me to treat you? By the way, I haven't caught the patriarchs of the 8 divine regions yet. You don't need to make a choice for now. When we capture your family head, we'll let you make a choice together. Wu Xian thought for a moment and said, You want to capture our family head? Dream on. The Yin family head said angrily, Are you dreaming? Then I'll show you. Wu Yan smiled calmly and then changed the topic. I don't understand. Your clan head has already abandoned you. Why are you still so loyal to him? Chapter 2994. The End, 17. The Master will never give up on us. He will definitely save us. The Een family member shouted. Give up. Your master can't save you. The only one who can save you is Lung Ruoxue. However, Lung Ruoxue is also trapped by me now. So, if you're smart, you should know what to do, right? Ripple's beautiful eyes swept over the others as she indifferently said, You're both unwilling? Wu Jing was a little impatient. She threw a vine directly from her hand and the person closest to the blood pool was thrown into it. In just a few seconds, that person's blood was sucked dry and his body dissolved in the bubbling blood. The timid ones were scared out of their wits. After all, they had once been in the same boat. But in the blink of an eye, their lives had disappeared. No one could accept such a fact. Still not willing to make a choice? Looking at the dumbfounded crowd, Ripple Mist coldly laughed. Then, one by one, they were thrown into the blood pool and became food for the three little flowers. Today, the three little flowers had a great time eating, and they were even a little full. Mist Ripple knew when to stop, but for several days in a row, she threw people into the blood pool every day, and soon, a small force disappeared from this world. In a situation where they couldn't even protect themselves, no one had extra sympathy. In fact, some forces couldn't stand it and surrendered very quickly. With a leader, more and more forces chose to join Rime Ice. Unfortunately, even though they had joined Rime Ice, the three little flowers, who had already tasted the sweetness of it, did not want to let them go. Wu Xiao also indulged in the behavior of her avatar. But we've already surrendered, so why are you still treating us like this? A person who was about to be eaten by the three blood cherry blossoms gathered his courage and asked before he died. Because you are too weak. They're only worthy of being food for my clone. Wu Xian said cruelly. Everyone had mixed feelings when they heard this. With that, Ripple Mist turned and left. When he returned to his main hall, a man in black was already waiting there. Any news? Wu Xian asked directly. Yes, I am. He's in the Ning family's divine realm. The man in black nodded. I'll go and capture them myself. After Wu Xian finished speaking, he had already disappeared. The people she wanted to capture were naturally the family heads of the 8 great divine domains that the man in black couldn't capture. Without them, how could she control the other people in the 8 great divine domains? When she reached the Ning family's divine realm, she was discovered as soon as she approached her destination. In an instant, her figure flashed and blocked the path of the few people who were about to escape. Ice Spirit, I didn't expect you to be with them. Seeing her old friend, Wu Xiao said with satisfaction. Although she only wanted to capture 6 of the patriarchs of the 8 divine regions, Ice Soul was definitely a surprise for her. However, Ice Spirit did not want to see her at all. Ice Spirit was extremely depressed. They had wanted to return to Demon City, but they had been stopped outside the city. Although he had no idea what had happened to Demon City, he guessed that something must have happened when he saw Fog Ice. Thanks, I met him by accident. Ice Spirit replied with a calm smile. What a coincidence. Now all of you come with me. Wu Xian said with a smile. There was a trace of pride on his face. Why should I go with you? Who do you think you are? The Een family master said unhappily. The clansmen of your clans are in my hands. If you don't come with me, I'll kill them. Wu Chen threatened. If we leave with you, Lung Ruoxue will kill us. That's why we don't want to be involved with you. Een family head continued. Lung Ruoxue can't take care of all of you now. She's already been trapped by me. Rime clenched her teeth in anger. At a time like this, these people would rather care about Lung Ruoxue's existence than pay any attention to her, the Divine Master. This was a fact that she could not accept. What did you do to Shuer? Ice Spirit asked immediately. You want to know? Then come with me. Ripple said. I'll listen to you if you want to tell me, but you want to use this as bait to make me go with you? Dream on. I'm not a 3-year-old kid, how can I be so easily deceived? Ice Soul was speechless. Today, you have to leave no matter what. River Ripple said angrily. You want to use force? There are at least 7 of us, and you're only yourself. You can't be considered a true divine master. Do you think you can fight all 7 of us? Ice Spirit sneered. Originally, they didn't want to fight with Wu Chen, but now it seemed that if they didn't fight, Wu Chen wouldn't let them go. When he said that he wasn't a true master god, he had completely angered Wu Chen. Thus, without saying anything, Wu Chen attacked Ice Soul. When the others saw this, they also attacked the Fog Ice. It was indeed difficult for Fog to fight against 7 people alone. However, it was almost impossible for Ice Soul and the others to gain any advantage. After the real battle, Ice Soul was deeply shocked by Fog's current strength. After tens of thousands of years, Fog had grown to such a level. It was really unbelievable. The current Rime Ice, other than Song and the Dark Lord who couldn't easily make a move, was probably something only Schwer could handle. After testing out Wu Zhao's strength, Bing Pe, who was unwilling to fight for too long, sent a message to the others. After a round of fierce attacks, the 7 of them split up and teleported in all directions. When Fog Ripple saw this, she almost exploded in anger. After using her divine sense to search for a while and finding nothing, she wantonly destroyed everything before leaving resentfully. As the saying goes, the most dangerous place is also the safest place. After a long time, Ice Soul and the others returned to the Ning family's divine realm. The first thing the Ice Spirit did after entering the Ning family's main residence was to open the forbidden area in the back mountain of the Ning family and let out Wuha Ice Phoenix. The first thing the man and beast did when they came out was to ask about Lung Ruox's situation. After knowing that she was trapped by the fog ice, they were extremely worried. "Don't worry, that little girl will be fine." Ice Spirit sighed and consoled him. In truth, he wasn't confident either, and the Ning family's god realm was probably only temporarily safe. Staying here wasn't a long-term plan. The 8 humans and 1 beast discussed for a while and decided to hide in the godly mainland. There were restrictions set up by Master Yu there, so it was relatively safer than the divine realm. More importantly, even Rime Ice could only display the strength of a god. This way, they would be much safer. Right now, the most important thing was for them to not fall into the hands of Wu Chen and become her hostage to threaten Lung Ruoxue. Chapter 2995. The End, 18. At the same time, Lung Ruoxue and Qing Ju were doing their best to break the god-binding array that Wu Xian had set up outside of Evil Demon City. A year later, the 2 of them only managed to crack 1/3 of the array. In this 1 year, the 2 of them had rested many times. The god-binding array had consumed too much divine power, and they had used up quite a number of top-grade crystals. This made Lung Ruoxue's heart ache. However, when it was time to spend money, Lung Ruoxue would definitely not be reluctant. Just like that, after 3 years, the 2 of them finally achieved some results. Lung Ruoxue and Qing Ju were excited when they saw the formation above Demon City dimming. After being trapped in the god-binding array for 3 years, they were completely clueless about the situation outside. However, this did not affect Lung Ruoxue's plan. Right now, only the array core was still in operation. As long as they could destroy the array core, they would be able to escape successfully. After Lung Ruoxue specifically instructed the demon, she focused all her energy on dealing with the formation core. This formation's eye was even more powerful than the one that had imprisoned the 3 beasts. Lung Ruoxue and Qing Ju had to exhaust all the divine power in their bodies and fight with the formation's eye for a while before they were finally able to destroy it. After the light from the array eye disappeared, Wu Xian, who was in the God Lord's manor, vomited blood and fainted. Lung Ruoxue and Qing Ju were not any better off. Both of them fell to the ground weakly. The demon carried Lung Ruoxue in his arms and carried Qing Ju, who could not receive any special treatment from him, back to the Lung family's main residence. With a thought, the 3 of them had already appeared in the bracelet. Uncle Long and the others immediately surrounded them and asked about their well-being. For the past 3 years, they had seen how hard Lung Ruoxue and Qing Ju had worked, but they were unable to help at all. This made them feel even more depressed, and their hatred for Wu Ice increased. However, now was not the time to complain. After watching Leng Ruoxue and Qing Ju enter the purple bamboo house to rest, Uncle Long and the rest stood guard outside. The next day, after Leng Ruoxue had slightly recovered, she immediately arranged for Shui Mo to help Song. The extremely unwilling evildoer was asked by Leng Ruoxue to be a bodyguard. Although the two of them were depressed, they didn't dare to delay and immediately headed to the God Guardian Tower. When he reached the God-protecting tower, Shui Mo immediately saw the six-pointed star array. It was also a God-binding array, but it was smaller. However, it was very powerful. However, what made him quite pleased was that when Wu Yan set up this formation, she did not use her own heart's blood and soul. Otherwise, he was afraid that he would not be able to break it with his strength. A month later, Azure finally regained his freedom. Senior Song, where are you in a hurry to go? Shui Mo turned to ask the demon. He went to take revenge. The evildoer said. That vengeful guy had been tricked by the Ripple Mist bitch this time, so it would be strange if he let her go. Should we follow them and take a look? Shui Mo was worried. No need. Let's go back to Demon City. The demon wasn't worried about Azure. The mist ripple couldn't kill it. I'm afraid I can't care about this guy now. Thanks. When Song left, he didn't say a word and immediately took action. Many of Wu's black-robed men were killed by him. When the guards of the God Lord's manor saw that the situation was bad, except for those who were dead, almost all of them who could escape ran away. In short, the God Lord's manor was almost empty now. Seeing this, the three hierarchs could only follow him to Demon City. As for the Mission Guild, according to Uncle Long and the others' original plan, they were supposed to stay there as spies. After all, they were the people of Fog City on the surface. No matter how vicious that woman was, it was impossible for her to kill her own subordinates. However, this time, more than half of the Imperial City had been destroyed, so there was no need for them to stay there any longer. When Ripple woke up and heard the report from her injured subordinate, she was so angry that she spat out a few mouthfuls of blood and almost fainted again. She quickly entered her domain and sucked the blood of dozens of people before she felt slightly better. After coming out of the domain, she continued to ask, how many people do we still have? Less than 10,000 people. The leader of the men in black said honestly. Less than 10,000. Hearing this number, Ripple Mist's anger grew. When she had the most subordinates, she had over 100 million subordinates. However, in the past few years, she had fought with Leng Ruoxue many times, causing the number of her subordinates to decrease rapidly. The loss of some godly venerable rank experts was the most painful for her. On the other hand, most of her subordinates were between the God King and God Emperor ranks. These people were basically cannon fodder when faced with Leng Ruoxue's group. However, having cannon fodder was better than having them all killed. Moreover, those cannon fodders could be used as food to satisfy her hunger at critical moments, but now, she had basically become the commander of the army. Such a tragic fact made her so depressed that she wanted to scratch the wall. Go and get more people for me, Ripple Mist angrily ordered. She needed food. Yes. The leader of the men in black replied. Although he wanted to say that it was not so easy to catch people now, he did not dare to face the anger of his master. He could only carry out the order seriously. 3 months later, the number of missing people in the divine realm had increased rapidly. Compared to the previous time when the various major powers had collectively disappeared, this time, the missing people were basically a few scattered humans. Without exception, they had all become the food of the fog. During this time, he finally managed to contact Uncle Long's Ice Soul. Ice Soul secretly returned to Demon City with Wu, Bing Chan, and the 6 patriarchs from the 8 divine domains. When Uncle Long and the others learned from them that all the major powers of the divine realm had been captured by Rime Ice, they were still shocked even though they had already been mentally prepared. Wu Qin is crazy. Originally, Uncle Long and the others thought that the old woman would find trouble with the forces that were close to them, but they didn't expect that Wu Han would cut the grass to catch the rabbit and not let a single one go. They couldn't understand. Was it necessary to attract hatred like this? This time, they didn't even need to announce Wu Chen's crimes. That bitch Wu Chen had pushed herself to the opposite side of all the forces, and this was definitely good news for them. Not long after, many of the fish that had escaped from the big forces also came to the evil demon city to seek shelter. However, a considerable number of the forces that these people belonged to had once had ideas about the Ning family's divine territory. Although the evil demon city did not directly reject them, they did not receive them well. At most, they did not expel them. Even so, those people were already quite grateful. Currently, Demon City was definitely the safest place in the divine realm. A year later, Lung Ruoxue had finally fully recovered her powers. Lung Ruoxue came out of the bangle and saw Uncle Long and the others. She smiled and said, "You've been waiting anxiously." Chapter 2996, The End, 19. Haha. Schwer, although you were in seclusion, we didn't idle around for the past year. We've basically wiped out all of the rhyme bitch's subordinates. Uncle Long said with a smile. Yes, we've already destroyed the left and right arms of the mist bitch. But even so, that old woman has not shown her face even once. I wonder if she's pretending to be dead. Dongfeng Yu added. She's recuperating. Lung Ruoxue said with certainty. During the previous battle, both of them had suffered great losses. During that time, she had used more than a year to recover her spirit chi, while that old woman needed blood. Thus, she didn't need to ask to know that many people had gone missing in the divine realm in the past year. While she was exchanging pleasantries with Uncle Long and the others, Lung Ruoxue used her divine sense to scan the entire demon city. With a single glance, she actually discovered many unfamiliar faces. There seems to be a lot of strangers. Lung Ruoxue asked after her observation. They're all survivors from the major forces. Uncle Long said honestly. Including those? Lung Ruoxue blinked her eyes. The ones she was referring to were naturally the forces that had once set their sights on the Ning family's divine territory. Yes, I am. However, I made them pay the rent. Uncle Long laughed evilly. That's good. I don't want to let them have it easy. Lung Ruoxue laughed coldly. She had no obligation to protect those people. I definitely won't let them take advantage of me. Don't worry. Uncle Long promised. Lung Ruoxue smiled in satisfaction. It wasn't that she didn't want to show her gratitude, but she had said that no matter what those people took away, they would have to return it in double. She didn't expect that her words would come true so quickly. After that, Lung Ruoxue said impatiently, "Let's go to the Imperial City." Good. To the Imperial City. Everyone was excited. Very quickly, the large group set off in a grand manner. A few days later, Lung Ruoxue and the rest were already standing outside the Imperial City's gates. At this moment, the Imperial City's walls were only half of its original size. However, the words, Imperial City, still hung high up in the middle of the walls. Lung Ruoxue and the others could not help but sigh when they saw the once prosperous Imperial City now in such a state. Is Wu Ling planning to give up? Senior brother, we can finally avenge Master this time. Lung Ruoxue looked at Bing Yao and Qin Yang who were beside her. The two of them nodded, their eyes burning with passion. They had been thinking about their master's revenge for tens of thousands of years. Today, they could finally take revenge. With their hearts filled with excitement, the two of them stood side by side with Lung Ruoxue. The three of them looked at each other and smiled. Then, the group walked into the Imperial City together. It could be said that Demon City had sent out all their forces for this battle to the death. Basically, apart from those who had some relationship with you, all the cultivators, ORCC, Fengde, and the others who were in seclusion had come out. The most important thing was to participate. They were not willing to let such a big event slip by. They still wanted to witness the end of the fog era with their own eyes. He had personally witnessed the rise of Lung Ruoxue's era. Walking on the streets of the Imperial City, Lung Ruoxue looked at the desolate shops on both sides of the street that had long since been left unattended. She felt even more upset. However, this was only temporary. After Rime Ice was destroyed, she would definitely work hard to restore the Imperial City to its former prosperity. After all, this place used to belong to Master, They arrived at the Divine Master's residence. Through the open door, Leng Ruoxue first saw Wu Xian, who was dressed in red, sitting in the courtyard. She seemed to be waiting for them. Behind her stood hundreds of men in black. "Thanks, were you waiting for me?" Leng Ruoxue asked despite knowing the answer. "Others don't have the right to make me wait." Wu Yan said with a charming smile. "I should feel honored. Should I say that you are in a hurry to die?" Leng Ruoxue asked in surprise. "You're so confident that you can kill me?" Ripple Mist pretended to be calm. In reality, she was very frustrated. She could already tell that Leng Ruoxue's current strength was only higher than hers. However, she was not willing to admit defeat just like that. As a strong person, she had an incomparable pride. "Of course, I've never done anything I'm not confident in," Leng Ruoxue said calmly. "I like confident enemies." Wu Xian said with a smile. "Thank you, I'll do the same." Leng Ruoxue replied. "If we weren't enemies, we might have become friends." Wu Xian said with some regret. "I'm sorry, but I think the opposite. I don't think we'll be friends even if we're not enemies." Leng Ruoxue said without giving him any face. "But could it be that I'm not worthy of being your friend with my status?" River Ripple was furious. "Those of different paths cannot conspire together. We're not the same." Leng Ruoxue was very honest. "Ha! What a good different paths, different plans. Do you think you're a good person? You're really hypocritical." Wu Xian scoffed at Leng Ruoxue's words. "Although I'm not a good person, I'm still far from you. At least, I won't kill the innocent." Leng Ruoxue retorted seriously. "I won't kill innocent people. I've only killed those who deserve to be killed." Wu Xiao quibbled. "If that's the case, the number of people you said should be killed is really quite a lot. Or have all the major forces offended you? Are they all people who should be killed?" Leng Ruoxue was a little curious. It was rare to see this old woman being so shameless. "They're just my food. Just like you humans need to hunt for beasts for food, I need to eat blood too," Ripple Mist said matter-of-factly. "Shameless, how can you say such words?" Dongfang Yu couldn't bear to listen any longer and interrupted before Leng Ruoxue could react. "Am I shameless? How much stronger can you humans be than me? How much stronger can the beast race be than me? Everyone was just following the laws of nature and survival of the fittest. So, let's not talk about each other," laughed Ripple Mist. "Swear, don't talk nonsense with her. Just attack." Seeing how shameless Wu Ling was, Dongfang Yu couldn't be bothered to waste any more time with her and spoke to Leng Ruoxue directly. Leng Ruoxue didn't want to waste any more time. She nodded and said, "All right." Seeing that Leng Ruoxue was about to make a move without even saying a few words, Ripple Mist was furious. With a change of thought, she moved the people locked in her domain out and pointed at those who had been thrown on the ground. "Leng Ruoxue, these people are from the 8 great divine regions. If you attack, I'll kill them immediately. You're using your own food to threaten me?" Leng Ruoxue didn't even look at the haggard person on the ground as she laughed. "Didn't you hear me clearly? They're from the 8 great divine regions." Wu Xian reminded. "So what? Do you think I'll compromise because of them? Stop dreaming," Leng Ruoxue said with a half-smile. Chapter 2997. The End, 20. Seeing that she could not threaten Leng Ruoxue, Ripple Mist could only change her target. She looked at the family heads of the 8 great divine regions and questioned, "Don't you want to save your own people? These people are your descendants." However, none of the family heads paid any attention to her. In reality, they did not have any laws and they did not have the ability to make Leng Ruoxue stop. Moreover, they were not willing to let go of the fog. According to their thoughts, as long as they got rid of Wu Cheng first, there was still hope for their tribesmen to be saved. They just had to prevent Wu Cheng from making the first move. Hence, they did not dare to cause any trouble for Leng Ruoxue at this moment. After Wu Jing's instigations were fruitless, she was completely enraged. In an instant, several vines flew out from her hand and directly flew towards the people of the 8 great divine regions who were lying on the ground. She even said, "It was Lung Ruoxue and your family head who didn't want to save you, so don't blame me." As soon as she finished speaking, some people had already closed their eyes and waited for death. Some of them were sobbing softly, but the anticipated vines did not even have the chance to touch them before they were burnt to ashes by Lung Ruoxue's fire blades. Damn it! Afraid that Lung Ruoxue's flames would affect her, Wu Xian quickly cut off the rattan. As the rattan that fell to the ground turned into ashes, a few drops of red blood dripped down from her sleeve. "Does it hurt?" Lung Ruoxue asked, pretending to be concerned. "Just a few vines," Ripple Mist said indifferently. In fact, she was in great pain. After all, the fingers were connected to the heart. "I forgot to tell you that my natal flame has also advanced after I completed the heaven-defying incantation. It's now the real Hundun divine flame. Therefore, the 2 moves you used before are probably useless. So, I'd better think of a new way." Lung Ruoxue kindly reminded. "I don't need you to worry." River Ripple roared. She had used spatial imprisonment before, so she could no longer use it under the current circumstances. The god equipment that she used to defend against Lung Ruoxue's flames was a one-use item. Hence, even though the 2 of them had yet to truly fight, she was already feeling a headache and a tough nut to crack when it came to Lung Ruoxue. But even so, she didn't intend to admit defeat so easily. After she finished her sentence, several more vines flew out from her hands. This time, her target was Lung Ruoxue. Lung Ruoxue was not flustered and held the cold shadow in her hands. In an instant, countless fiery red meteors flew towards the direction of the fog ice from all directions. This time, without the protection of the divine weapon, Wu Chen did not dare to go head-to-head with Lung Ruoxue's abnormal flames. Unfortunately, it was too late for her to retract her vine. As long as the sparks touched the vine, it would immediately be burned to ashes. Following that, the roars of a dragon and the cries of a phoenix could be heard from the sky. Lung Ruoxue had used her godly power to create 2 dragons and 2 phoenixes. These 4 beasts that were created from her godly power were extremely lifelike, as if they were real. The feathers and scales on their bodies could be clearly seen. As soon as the 4 beastie appeared, they immediately found their target and rushed straight at the fog. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Uncle Long and the others swarmed forward and annihilated hundreds of men in black. They also rescued the pitiful food of fog ice. After this was done, the crowd continued to watch. "Shue, why don't you get too chillin'?" After watching for a while, Bing Yao was not happy to see only the dragon and the phoenix showing off in the sky. When the crowd heard Bing Yao's words, they didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Dear, why are you so jealous at this time? This was not a joke." However, after hearing Bing Yao's words, Lung Ruoxue quickly formed 2 more qilin. This time, Bing Yao was satisfied. Thanks, however, the White Tiger race was not satisfied. The White Tiger King had a look of resentment as he said, "Master, you're biased." Even though she had such thoughts in her heart, the helpless Lung Ruoxue still formed 2 tigers. This time, the 4 king divine beasts were all present. In the sky, 8 fiery red and burning giant king divine beasts surrounded the fog ice in the middle, baring their teeth and brandishing their claws. These 8 beasts all carried Lung Ruoxue's natal flames and were supported by her divine power. Hence, in terms of strength, they were on par with Lung Ruoxue. However, it took a lot of divine power to form these beasts. Hence, Lung Ruoxue kept pouring pills into her mouth as she watched the battle between them and the Fog Phoenix. Seeing this scene, Wu Yen was furious. Shameless. Lung Ruoxue was the real shameless one. Originally, Wu Yen had hoped that she could hold on for a long time, best if she could hold on until the other party's divine power was exhausted. At that time, she would laugh at her for overestimating her own ability. But who knew that the other party would actually eat medicinal pills? Wasn't this cheating? The furious Wu Chen lost his mind and roared, "Damn it! You're cheating!" Cheating? What a joke! Do you think this is a competition? This is a life and death battle, so dear, don't joke around, okay? Lung Ruoxue was speechless. After being ridiculed by Lung Ruoxue like this, Wu Mo lost her focus for a moment. In an instant, half of her arm was bitten off by a fiery red tiger. At that moment, she was in so much pain that she almost fainted. Good job. Bite her. Bite her to death. The White Tiger King shouted at the top of its lungs. Idiot. Feng Wu couldn't help but roll his eyes at the White Tiger King. However, the White Tiger King didn't care about that. In any case, if the tiger conjured by its master succeeded, it would also be proud. A few of the divine strength beasts seemed to understand the White Tiger King's words. Their attacks became sharper and fiercer. Wu Xian, who had lost an arm, ate a healing pill and began to dodge left and right again. Now, she did not dare to attack easily except for defending. This nemesis strength was above her. As long as Wu Xiao thought of this, she couldn't help but go crazy. I can't go on like this. Otherwise, she would die. Wu Jing planned to find an opportunity to escape, but she finally found an opportunity. As soon as her body flew into the air, she was slapped down by a furry little paw. With a plop, she fell to the ground. You want to run? Azure smiled. No way. That demonic man and I have already sealed off the sky. You can have fun here. Rhyme glared at Song with hatred, and the evildoer who had already guarded the other side of the sky waved to her with a smile. Seeing this scene, Rhyme was so angry that she spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. These people were really bullies. Fog was filled with grief and indignation. Since she couldn't escape, she wouldn't let these people humiliate her. In addition to being ruthless, the fog ice began to counterattack crazily. Countless vines flew in all directions, passing over the 8 beasts and heading straight for Uncle Long and the others. Uncle Long and the others saw this and shouted exaggeratedly, "Help!" Then everyone split up and ran towards the direction of Azure and Evil. Chapter 2998. The End, 21. The 8 flaming beasts took the opportunity to burn the vines that had missed and continued to play with the fog ice. After a long time, Wu Luan had been tortured by the 8 beasts until she was exhausted. Her body was covered in wounds, and her arm had been bitten off many times. Her healing pills were almost exhausted. It could be said that Wu Luan was at an absolute disadvantage from the beginning of this battle. Could this be the advantage of the chaotic body? Mist Ripple was unwilling. Why didn't she have the chaotic body? She had done so many things and even killed the person she loved the most, yet she had not obtained the chaotic body. She did not manage to obtain the approval of the stupid bracelet and the silly cat, but Lung Ruoxue had easily obtained all of this. But why could Lung Ruoxue do it? She had worked so hard for so long, but she could not get what she wanted. Before she died, Ripple Mist's eyes were filled with unwillingness. She glared at Lung Ruoxue and questioned, "Why? Which part of you is better than me? Why does the heavens care so much about you? Why do you always get what I can't? Tell me the reason. If I don't tell you, will you die with your eyes wide open?" Lung Ruoxue asked with a smile. "I will. Not only will I not die in peace, even if I become an evil ghost in the 9 nether underworld, I will not let you go." Rhyme howled, so angry that the veins on her forehead were popping out. At this moment, the demon said lightly, "My 9 nether prison doesn't welcome you." The demon's stab was really ruthless. Wu Yen was distracted at this life and death moment, and then one of her legs was bitten off by a tiger. Enduring the pain, Wu Yan's eyes were a little unfocused as she said, "How could I have forgotten that you are clinging onto the mistress of the dark world? Yep. It's a pity that there's no share for you, so you'd better think about where you can stay." Lung Ruoxue smiled faintly. "I'm going to accompany you." Mist Ripple said softly, as if she had thought of something, her beautiful eyes somewhat dazed. "Master doesn't want to see you." Lung Ruoxue said coldly. "No. He will want to see me. I will." Wu Xian suddenly roared. "No, Master told me that the thing he regrets the most in his life is raising an ungrateful wolf." Lung Ruoxue said as she glanced at the Mist Ripple. "I'm not an ungrateful person. I'm not. I just want to become stronger too much." Wu Xian retorted madly. You want to become stronger, so you have to kill my master? Lung Ruoshuet. I love him. I love him. Everything I've done is in hopes that he'll stay by my side obediently, but he'd rather die than do so. Why won't he listen to me? Wu Xian asked Lung Ruoshue agitatedly. Because he doesn't love you. Lung Ruoshue said, hitting the nail on the head. No. He loves me. He will love me. Wu Yen said in a self-deceiving manner. Thanks, if thinking this way will make you feel better, then please do as you please. Lung Ruoshue knew that this woman was beyond saving and was in a state of extreme madness. She didn't want to waste any more words with her. With that, she charged towards Lung Ruoshue. The cold shadow in Lung Ruoshue's hand drew a perfect arc in the air, and the tip of the sword pierced into Ripple Mist's body. Following that, Ripple Mist fell limply to the ground, taking her last breath. She had died with her eyes wide open. The 8 flaming beasts saw that the fog had already breathed its last and quickly swarmed forward to destroy the corpse. This time, the miasma really disappeared without a trace. After Wu Han's death, Lung Ruoshue naturally became the new lord of the firmament and was acknowledged by the laws of heaven and earth. Her god-lord residence was arranged by Lung Ruoshue to be in Demon City, while the original imperial city still belonged to her master. The surviving forces from the god world also tactfully expressed their loyalty and support to Lung Ruoshue. Lung Ruoshue magnanimously forgave some people for their past actions. Then, she brought the evildoer along to fix the rules of heaven and earth. The regulations of the heaven and earth did not manage to escape in time and could only allow Lung Ruoshue to bully them. However, Lung Ruoshue did not go too far. After all, they were going to be colleagues in the future, and it was only right for them to care for each other. After being loved by Lung Ruoshue, the laws of heaven and earth were no longer hiding. Instead, they openly appeared around Lung Ruoshue and the others. This made Mu Li suffer. As for the dragon, phoenix, and white tiger, they finally had the time to deal with the traitors of their 3 races. Lung Ruoshue pulled the evildoer to a secluded place and said with a serious and domineering expression, "Evildoer, marry me." The sudden surprise stunned the demon. After a long time, he finally reacted and asked weakly, "Shouldn't you be the one marrying me?" "Who said that? In my territory, you're the one marrying me. I'll ask you one last time, are you going to marry or not?" Lung Ruoshue said in an overbearing manner. "I'll get married." The demon didn't hesitate at all. He had waited for so long and waited for this day with great difficulty. How could he refuse? That's why it wasn't a problem who married who. The most important thing was the title. He had finally obtained the status he had been looking forward to for a long time. So, the demon was so touched. After obtaining the approval of the demon, Lung Ruoshue could not wait to share the good news with everyone. When Lung Qingtian and Lung Ruhen heard this, they were not surprised at all and said as a matter of fact, "Shui, you should have given her a status long ago." "That's right." Uncle Long and the others also joined in. "The Dark Lord has waited for a long time." Hearing their words, Lung Ruoshue immediately felt guilty. She looked at the evildoer with her beautiful eyes, full of regret. The evildoer returned Lung Ruoshue a consoling gaze. His heart was already blooming with joy. "Status, you are getting closer and closer to me." However, it wasn't easy to get past Song and Green Vessel. Although the 2 of them had been mentally prepared for this day, when it really came, they still felt uncomfortable. Such a beautiful and fragrant girl, just like that, belonged to a stinky man. It was truly like a fresh flower stuck in cow dung. Unfortunately, no matter how much they argued, Lung Ruoshue would not change her mind. With the help of Uncle Long and the others, the wedding preparations were made rather quickly. However, the demon did not see Shui in the past few days. According to Shui, they had to rush a few sets of formal dresses for the 2 of them. Hearing Shui's words, the evildoer's heart was filled with anticipation. However, the days without Shui were really hard to bear. However, Shui said that she wanted to give him a surprise, so he could only wait patiently. Sitting in the garden listlessly, the demon counted the days with his fingers. In 3 days it would be his wedding day. Ooh, he was so excited. Chapter 2999, The Final Ending, 22. However, these 3 days were also quite difficult to endure. The demon had definitely experienced what it meant to pass a day like a year. Hey, evil man! Schwer is looking for you. Suddenly, Tsong's voice sounded out from nowhere. Then, a small white cat appeared in the air and looked at the demon with a bitter face. Where are you? Although Azure's tone wasn't very good, the demon who was in a good mood wouldn't bother with it. In the room. Tsong's eyes' words were like gold. The demon went straight to his room after hearing this. Schwer was sitting on a chair, and when she saw him, she quickly said, "Evildoer, I have something to tell you." What did Schwer want to tell me? The demon asked with a tender expression. What I want to say is, let's cancel the wedding. Lung Ruoxue suddenly said. What did you just say? The demon thought he had heard wrong. After a moment of shock, he looked at Schwer in disbelief. How could Schwer say such words to him? I said, cancel our wedding. I don't want to marry you. Lung Ruoxue repeated. Don't marry me? It's fine because I'm the one marrying you. The evil demon laughed before he rudely grabbed Lung Ruoxue's collar and questioned her with a dark expression. Who are you? Why did you impersonate Schwer? I am Lung Ruoxue. Lung Ruoxue said stubbornly. No, you're not. I thought you were joking with me, but when you said you didn't want to marry me, I was sure you weren't Schwer. The demon explained. Because Schwer wanted him to marry. Let me go. Seeing that she had been exposed, the fake Lung Ruoxue started to get nervous. However, the demon would not let her off before he figured out her identity. The fake Lung Ruoxue saw the demon's ferocious look and shouted at the top of her lungs, "Help! Molested!" Upon hearing this voice, almost everyone ran over. Seeing this scene, they were speechless. What the hell are you two doing? We're busy. She's not Schwer. The demon said helplessly. Not Schwer? Who is she then? How can she be exactly the same as Schwer? Even her temperament and aura are the same. How can there be two people in the world that are so similar? Everyone was amazed. They surrounded the fake Lung Ruoxue and discussed for a long time, but they could not see how she was fake. Ruhen, is this really not your sister? After they were done looking at the fake Lung Ruoxue, they asked Lung Ruhen. Lung Ruhen could not be sure anymore. Are you still not going to tell the truth? Or you? How dare you pretend to be my woman? You must be tired of living. After listening to everyone's discussion, the evildoer questioned again. His dark starry eyes were full of warning. You are all bullies. Sister. The fake Lung Ruoxue couldn't stand the threat from the evil eyes and started to cry. Ruhen, she's calling for sister. Is she calling for Schwer? Dongfang, you couldn't help but ask. I don't know, Lung Ruhen was very honest. What's wrong? At this moment, another beautiful woman appeared out of thin air in the room. Seeing another her, she was stunned for a moment, then helplessly shook her head and said, Qingju, you're so naughty. Why did you change into my appearance? Thanks, green vessel? A copy? Everyone was shocked. Sister. They're bullying me. Woo. The moment Qingju saw Lung Ruoxue, he immediately broke free from the demon's control and threw himself into Lung Ruoxue's arms. Looking at the two stunning beauties embracing each other as if there was no one else around, everyone felt strange no matter how they thought about it. The demon was burning with jealousy. He pulled Schwer over and hugged her, then complained, Schwer, Qingju has changed into your appearance and said that he wants to cancel the wedding. Everyone was shocked again and gave Green Vessel a look that said good luck to you. They thought to themselves, kid, you're so bold. He actually dared to tease the mistress of the dark world like this. He was simply courting death. Lung Ruoxue felt a headache coming on as well. She looked at Qingju speechlessly. Qingju silently changed back to his child form and pouted his lips in grievance. I just wanted to test his loyalty to my sister. Bullshit. You're clearly trying to break us up. The demon cursed in anger. If it wasn't for Schwer, he would definitely teach this soul bastard a good lesson. However, this little incident that Qing Ju created did not affect the progress of Leng Ruoxue and the demon's wedding. Furthermore, Leng Ruoxue was clear about Qing Ju's motive and knew that he must have an accomplice. Otherwise, the innocent Qing Ju would not have been able to come up with such a strange idea. Of course, it went without saying that the accomplice was Tsang. On the day of the wedding, Leng Ruoxue was dressed in a snow-white wedding dress, which made her look extremely beautiful and moving. Evildoer was dressed in a silver-gray, well-ironed Western suit, which made the noble mistress of the dark world even more handsome and noble. Both of them were well-matched in terms of appearance and temperament. The gowns that they were wearing were specially tailored by Leng Ruoxue. Hence, the moment they appeared, they instantly attracted everyone's attention. The wedding venue was filled with fresh flowers, and the wedding banquet was held in the form of a buffet. When Leng Ruoxue moved the simplified modern wedding procedures to the divine realm, the two of them concluded the marriage contract under the witness of everyone with an extremely solemn soul loyalty oath. Although there was no such thing as marriage in the divine realm, a marriage bound by an oath was obviously more legally binding. From then on, the two souls were dependent on each other and would never leave each other. Their wedding was simple yet grand. After the lively wedding banquet that had lasted for 3 days ended, Uncle Long and the others were planning to make a scene in the nuptial chamber when they realized that the two newly wedded couple had disappeared. Where was he? Uncle Long and the others were extremely disappointed. Song and Qing Ju looked at each other and made a decision at the same time. At this moment, the demon and Leng Ruoxue were in the spatial tunnel, heading towards the unknown. Schwer, we've finally gotten rid of those third wheels. We can finally spend some alone time together. The demon was quite satisfied with his and Schwer Heir's escape. This was a world of the two of them. There was no green vessel. There was no Tsang. Without those beastie who competed with him for his favor, he was really happy no matter how he thought about it. However, Leng Ruoxue wasn't as cocky as the demon. Based on her understanding of Tsang and green vessel, once they knew that they had gone missing, they would definitely come after them. It was only a matter of time before they found them. However, the two of them had just gotten married, and Leng Ruoxue was not willing to say anything that would make the demon depressed. Hence, she was very cooperative and said, "Yes, let's go for our honeymoon." Then, the two of them stepped out of the space tunnel together. Years later, the God world, which was once riddled with holes due to the battle between Wu Cheng and Leng Ruoxue, slowly recovered its former prosperity. The legends about Leng Ruoxue never stopped. Of course, the most widely spread was not because of her strength or her beauty, but her skills in controlling her husband. It was rumored that the mistress of the dark world would listen to the divine master. It was rumored that the mistress of the dark world was the #1 filial husband in the history of the divine realm. There were many more things like that. Chapter 3000, Honeymoon. Honey, you're awake. Leng Ruoxue had just opened her beautiful eyes when she saw an extremely handsome face in front of her. Even though it was not the first time they had shared a bed, but every time she saw the evildoer's beautiful face, she could not help but be mesmerized. This fellow had nothing to worry about now, especially when Song and the other beasts were not around to cause trouble for him. He was becoming more and more unscrupulous, thinking of all ways to seduce her. As long as it was a method that could be used, it could be said that the evildoer had used it all. Just as she thought of this, Leng Ruoxue was hugged even tighter by the fiery hot evildoer. "Demon, you're hugging me too tightly. Are you trying to strangle me to death?" Leng Ruoxue, who felt that she could not let him continue like this, deliberately complained in an unromantic manner. "Call me hubby." She had to call him hubby in the future. "Otherwise, I'll punish you." Hearing his incorrigible wife call him a demon again, a certain demon man was dissatisfied. He had told Schwer to call him hubby many times, but Schwer just couldn't remember. This made him extremely worried. However, as soon as he thought of the punishment he would use, his heart couldn't help but ripple. Perhaps Schwer just liked to be punished by him. Otherwise, How could he explain this little woman's unrepentant behavior? The demons secretly imagined this. When Lung Ruoxue saw his evil smile, she knew what he was thinking and quickly changed her words. "Hubby, you're hugging me too tightly. I can't breathe." Regret. He was so regretful that his intestines had turned green. Lung Ruoxue was speechless when she saw his expression. However, her heart ached for the man, so she tactfully coaxed him. After coaxing him for a long time and being forced to sign countless unfair contracts, the demon finally burst with joy. At this moment, Lung Ruoxue suddenly missed Azure and the rest. If Azure and the rest were around, the demon would never have the chance to be arrogant. What a pity! A single misstep would result in eternal hatred. It was too late to think about all this now. After recollecting her emotions, Lung Ruoxue washed up and pulled the unwilling evildoer out of the room. At this moment, the two of them were still on their honeymoon. However, for ordinary people, their honeymoon would be a little long, and the location of their honeymoon would be filled with countless uncertainties. This was because they were currently shuttling through different spaces. The space where the two of them had landed belonged to a star region with an early-stage civilization. The cultivation level there was very low, and there was no orthodox cultivation system. Many people who had just started to cultivate had special abilities that ordinary people did not have. They had almost no good cultivation methods. Of course, their strength was enough to use in that space. Unfortunately, their special abilities did not allow them to obtain the supreme position in that star region. At most, he would have an extra bodyguard job. Speaking of which, Lung Ruoxue felt depressed for those people. They were clearly cultivators, yet they could only be bodyguards for those with power and influence. However, they couldn't be blamed for this. Who asked that space to be a highly advanced civilization? There were all sorts of energy laser cannons and other weapons inside. To cultivators who didn't have proper cultivation methods, it was like an insurmountable mountain. It must be known that all kinds of advanced weapons, as long as there was energy, could be used endlessly. However, the special abilities that cultivators didn't have much energy in were often used up and needed a long time to recover. As a result, special abilities naturally became an existence of little value. In Lung Ruoxue's words, it was caused by a lack of spiritual energy. However, Lung Ruoxue had no intention of saving all the cultivators under the heavens chart. To her, she was merely a traveler in time and space. She was going there for a vacation. As long as no one provoked her, she would not meddle in other people's business. However, she was quite interested in the various high-tech things there. In her previous life, she had also lived in the era of technology. However, the world she lived in was obviously behind by a lot compared to the space she had been to not long ago. What made her curious was that if the technology of an elementary civilization in a star field could develop to such an amazing extent, how would the technology of an advanced civilization be like? The demon knew Xue Er's thoughts very well. Therefore, at this moment, the two of them were heading to the nearest star field of an advanced civilization. Their mode of transportation was a spaceship from a low-leveled civilization's star field. The captain was the demon's new servant, a despondent ability user in the eyes of the people from the high-tech star field. Speaking of which, when this person was being hunted down, it was the demon who took the initiative to save him. In the demon's words, the two of them were alone outside, so there were some things that naturally needed to be taken care of. Therefore, they saved this fallen ability user who was being chased. Stepping out of the room, he went to the dining room. The captain and servant, a middle-aged man, had already prepared a variety of hot meals. When he saw Lung Ruoxue and the demon, the middle-aged man quickly bowed. "Master, madam, good morning." The demon nodded his head slightly. Lung Ruoxue, on the other hand, had some black lines on her face. It was getting late, right? However, after going through the demon and her short devilish training, Lung Ruoxue knew that this middle-aged man called Ji Kai could barely be considered a qualified servant. Thanks at the same time, it also confirmed Ji Kai's malleability. But in fact, the poor middle-aged man was completely forced to do so. His owner had said that if he couldn't learn how to cook these dishes, he would be refunded. For Ji Kai, who had finally managed to get close to a powerful man, the consequences were unimaginable. As the saying goes, with pressure comes motivation. Under such pressure, Ji Kai didn't eat or sleep, and he practiced his cooking skills day and night. Finally, he barely got Lung Ruoxu's approval and was allowed to stay. At the same time, he was also trained by the evildoer to be an obedient and well-behaved servant. Ji Kai was very tactful. Most of the time, he only pretended to be dead in his captain's room. He would only appear in the modified kitchen during mealtime. After he finished cooking for his master, he would immediately disappear. This action of his naturally made the demon very satisfied, so he was much more kind to Ji Kai. After all, it was rare to see such a sensible light bulb. When he thought of Ji Kai's performance, he couldn't help but think of those hateful people, Song, who made him gnash his teeth. If only those people could be like Ji Kai. But this could only become his dream. After he greeted Lung Ruoxue and the demon, Ji Kai disappeared from their sight. The two of them sat down and looked at the table full of dishes. Lung Ruoxue felt a slight headache. Lung Ruoxue looked at the evildoer with hidden bitterness and said, "This servant of yours, you're treating us like pigs. Is this a lot? Shue, you're too skinny, you need to eat more." The evil demon laughed as he personally scooped a bowl of green bean porridge and placed it in front of Lung Ruoxue. Looking at the piping hot green bean porridge in front of her, Lung Ruoxue asked warily, "My dear husband, what is your unspeakable purpose in trying to fatten me up?" "Honey, I just wanted you to eat more because you're too thin. Why would I have any ulterior motives? You can't wrong me like this." Hearing this, the demon immediately felt wronged. In reality, did he dare to say that he wanted Shue to be fatter so that fewer people would think about her? He didn't dare. If he really said that, who knew what Shue would do in a fit of anger? He absolutely couldn't risk his own interests. "Did I wrong you?" Lung Ruoxue squinted her beautiful eyes and said indifferently, "No, I didn't. My wife is the best, how could she wrong me?" The demon said hurriedly, "Then tell me the truth." Lung Ruoxue would not be so easily fooled by this demon. "Fatter. It feels good." After thinking for a while, the demon said shyly, "You mean I don't feel good now?" Raising her eyebrows, Lung Ruoxue deliberately picked on him. "How can that be? I mean, it's better to be fatter. So, honey, don't worry and eat as much as you want." The evildoer encouraged with a face full of affection. Unfortunately, Lung Ruoxue would not fall for his trick. After all, which woman did not like to be beautiful? Which woman would like to be fat? Therefore, she only had a bowl of porridge and a piece of exquisite white jade-like dessert before she said she was full. Although the demon was disappointed that his wife didn't eat much, he couldn't force Shue to eat. After having breakfast, the two of them went to the living room and sat by the window to enjoy the scenery outside. At this time, the starry sky was a sea of blue. From time to time, extremely fast streamlined spaceships would flash in front of their eyes. However, the spaceships they were in were as slow as snails. However, the two of them were quite calm. Who asked them to have so much time? After flying for a long time, Ji Kai's voice finally reached his ears. "Master, madam, we have arrived at the advanced civilization's star field." When he said this, Ji Kai had already walked out of the driver's seat and stood beside the two of them respectfully. Upon hearing this, the demon only nodded and said, "Since we're here, let's go in." "Master, I don't have enough money," Ji Kai said with a red face. He was too incompetent as a servant. He had to trouble his master for such a small matter. Of course, the main reason was that he had never been to an advanced civilization's star field before. He did not expect the cost of entering an advanced civilization's star field to be so high, and it was calculated by the head. It could be said that the money he had saved up over the years was not even enough for half a person to enter. As the saying goes, a hero can't win a penny. Although he knew that he wasn't a hero, he was indeed stumped. At this moment, he was also afraid that his master would blame him for not doing a good job. He couldn't even do such a small thing well. It had to be said that Ji Kai had been taught well. It was obviously the demon who didn't give him a single cent, But at this moment, he completely took the responsibility of not having money on himself. In his mind, he really shouldn't trouble his master for such a small matter like money. Hearing Ji Kai mention that he did not have enough money, the demon turned to look at Leng Ruoxue and said calmly, "We don't have any money either." You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.